I need to reintroduce myself.
Good evening and welcome to the May 6th, 2014 Ogden City Council meeting. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, and we will turn the time to Vice Chair Gochner for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join and, yes, please rise and join, I guess is the word. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. We have several recognitions tonight on our agenda. The first is the Union Station 90th year anniversary agenda, and we've asked Chairwoman Wicks. Boy,
It's the German pronunciation.
I'm gonna get the gum out of my mouth. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Heyer. This is a joint resolution of the Ogden City Council and Mayor. It's Resolution 2014-6, and it is recognizing Union Station for serving as a community landmark for the past 90 years, and it reads as follows. Whereas on March 8th, 1869, the first Union Pacific engine steamed into Ogden on the heels of track layers on their way to Promontory. Four cities, Corinne, Promontory, Uinta, and Ogden, competed for the right to be the junction railroad travel in the Intermountain West. Ogden was selected to receive this prestigious designation. And whereas the first railroad station built in Ogden was a two-story wooden frame building that was built on a mudflat on the banks of the Weber River. The building soon became inadequate, and locals complained about the quarter mile of wood boardwalk required to traverse the swampy ground to reach the station. And whereas Union Pacific and Central Pacific Railroad companies oversaw the construction and management of a new Union Station building in 1889. This facility was considerably larger, 2 stories, and was constructed of brick. It served the needs of the railroad and contained 33 hotel rooms, a restaurant, barber shop, and other conveniences needed by travelers. And whereas, in 1923, a hotel room caught fire, and this quickly spread throughout the building, causing significant damage. Architects proposed a new design for the building, and the community gathered to celebrate the reopening of the station on November 22nd, 1924. And whereas, with the demise of railroad passenger service, in 1977, the city received a 50-year lease from Union Pacific for the Union Station building, with a plan to use the building for museums. Renovations took place in 1987, and the facility was reopened. And whereas, in 1988, the state of Utah designated Union Station as the Utah State Railroad Museum. The station still operates this museum and also houses the John M. Browning Firearms Museum, Browning Kimball Classic Car Museum, Utah Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, Wattastumpkey Model Railroad, Eccles Rail Center, 3 fine arts galleries, Warren's Train Shop, Union Grill Restaurant, the U.S. Forest Service Information Center, and the Union Station Library. There's a gift shop in there too. And whereas Union Station is a treasure in our community, this historic building has become a central gathering place and is used to host countless conventions, meetings, weddings, banquets, and other various events. It bridges our past with our future and continues to serve as an invaluable and remarkable landmark in our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell proudly recognize Union Station for serving as a community landmark for the past 90 years. We appreciate the incredible efforts of staff, volunteers, patrons, donors to help maintain this remarkable structure and Ogden's vibrant railroad history. We are confident that Union Station will continue to be enjoyed for many generations to come. So with that, I would make a motion that we adopt Joint Resolution 2014-6.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the joint resolution 2014-6, and this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you.
And I believe we have some people from Union Station Foundation here to accept
There
this.
they are.
And my mom came into Ogden through Union Station in 1943. My grandma decided to move her family of 4 from South Dakota to Utah while my grandfather was fighting in World War II, and she entered Ogden from Union Station. So it's kind of a special place for my family.
Well, let's have you come up, and so we can award the plaque
Beverly,
to you.
come on up. And Charles.
And Amy Sue loves to take pictures, so.
We'll have to do a picture as well.
Thank you very much. I'm Leon Jones, I'm the head of the foundation. Good to see you again. We missed you last night.
Why don't everybody come and line up over here? And let's all squeeze in.
Put the mayor behind you.
Hey, Roberta.
Oh, here's
Roberta, there's a box to get at home safe.
anything you'd like to say?
Thank you.
All right.
I have to throw one thing in. I mean, it's pretty, the timing's pretty incredible that one of those big boys just left town this morning, and remarkable at how many people turned out to see that.
We must have had 2,000 people, maybe more than that, come down and just stare at that big boy locomotive that was parked back in Union Station. So it was great to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a recognition for Stroke Awareness Month. Councilmember Garner.
Thank you. It's my honor to read this today. And so, whereas stroke is a leading cause of serious long-term disability and the 4th leading cause of death in the United States, killing about 130,000 people nationwide each year, in Utah, about 3,500 people die annually from heart disease and stroke. And whereas nearly half of Utahns do not know whether they are at risk for stroke and are unfamiliar with any stroke warning signs or symptoms, stroke prevalence is projected to increase by approximately 25% between 2010 and 2030. And the direct medical costs for treating stroke are expected to increase nationally by 238%, from $28.3 billion in 2010 to $95.6 billion by 2030. And whereas the signature action for the American Stroke Month 2014 is American Stroke Association's Together to End Stroke initiative, which encourages everyone to learn their personal stroke risk, memorize and share the stroke warning signs, and call 911 at the first sign of a stroke. And whereas the FAST warning signs and symptoms of stroke include face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, and time to call 911. Warning signs also include sudden numbness or weakness of the face, arm or leg, especially on one side of the body, sudden confusion, trouble speaking or understanding, sudden and trouble seeing in one or both eyes, sudden trouble walking, dizziness, loss of balance or coordination, and sudden severe headache with no known cause. And whereas new and effective treatments have been developed to treat and minimize the severity and damaging effects of stroke, but much more research is needed. And whereas eating a healthy diet, regular physical activity, maintaining a healthy weight, managing stress, and complying with medication prescriptions can all help to maintain a healthy blood pressure and reduce the risk of stroke. Now therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim May 2014 as Stroke Awareness Month in Ogden City, and we encourage residents to familiarize themselves with the risk factors associated with stroke, recognize the warning signs and symptoms, and on the first signs of a stroke, to dial 911 immediately so that they might begin to reduce the devastating effects of stroke on our population. So it's my honor to propose that we adopt this proclamation. I didn't see a number.
No number.
Just this proclamation today.
I'll second it.
Okay. Got a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember Blair, to adopt this joint proclamation. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
And
passes.
if Chrissy and Christy both will come up, we will present this for them. I'll give each of you a copy of this. And it's my pleasure to work with Chrissy and know all the good work they do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are you Chris or Christy?
I'm Chrissy.
It's not
Required to be a stroke coordinator to have that name, but.
Sure.
I just wanted to say that statewide for the last several years, several facilities in Utah have been working very diligently to be trained and equipped and prepared to take care of stroke patients. As the stroke coordinator for Mankaty Hospital and then the stroke coordinator for Ogden Regional Medical Center, there's 2 facilities within our area that are well trained and equipped for this. And to proclaim Stroke Month here in Ogden City is wonderful and a great step in helping our citizens and our neighbors and friends and families to recognize the stroke warning signs and the risk factors, because stroke is preventable and it is treatable. So thank you for taking the time to recognize this and helping the citizens to understand it as well.
Christy?
A really quick thing too. I echo all of the things that have been said. And I think the community is so fortunate to have 2 hospitals that are accredited by the Joint Commission specific for stroke. We work very hard in both hospitals to have stroke teams and all of these processes in place because time is of the essence. Every minute, every second, brain cells are dying. And so time is very important, but as good as we both are and our teams, if a patient waits and decides to go to bed and feel better in the morning, it's just such a loss of valuable time that stroke could actually be treated, evidence-based, treated with these clot-busting medications, but there's a window of time that's really important. So preventing by healthy habits and modifying those risk factors that we can, but then when recognizing a stroke and being, strong enough to insist to do something, to call 911 and get those patients in, because we've both seen successful patients walking out of a hospital after having a stroke because they've received this clot-busting medication. So really important information, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here tonight.
Next item on the agenda is the recognition for the Make a Difference Day, and Vice Chair Grockner.
Thank you. This happens to be my very favorite day of the year for our community, so I'm happy to read this. This is the joint proclamation of the Ogden City Council and Mayor proclaiming May 8th, 2014, Make a Difference Day in Ogden City. Whereas Ogden City is now working to prepare for its 6th annual Make a Difference Day. This annual event is a day of service that focuses on unifying the community and building pride throughout the city. And whereas the concept behind Make a Difference Day is to encourage everyone to take pride in our community and become involved with local projects. Groups of all sizes and ages are invited to participate by organizing projects and participating in the food drive. The options are endless and the results will be significant. And whereas in conjunction with this event, a food drive is being held through May 8th. Non-perishable food items will be accepted at the city's Public Works, Municipal, Frankham Public Safety, and Community Services buildings. All collected food will go toward helping those in need throughout our community. And whereas this event helps us to spruce up Ogden in anticipation of the 14th Annual Ogden Marathon scheduled Saturday, May 17th. This year's effort also serves as a kickoff for 100 days of service in preparation for the Ogden LDS Temple Open House, the USA Cycling Masters Championships, and other upcoming events that are projected to bring hundreds of thousands of visitors to Ogden. And whereas Make a Difference Day has become a valued tradition in our community that continues to grow each year, many have committed to participate in over 120 projects, with more anticipated to join in the effort. This incredible event helps us to both maintain and showcase our beautiful city. Now, therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Caldwell do hereby proclaim May 8th as Make a Difference Day in Ogden City. We express sincere appreciation to our Public Services Department and Jay Louder, who dedicate much time to plan and carry out this event. We are very grateful for everyone who is currently participating and all who will join in as our community comes together to make a difference in Ogden. And with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt this resolution.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Gochner, seconded by Councilmember Stevens, to adopt the Make a Difference Day proclamation. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Jay, where are you at? There you are. Why don't you come up, talk about it a little bit. Toot your horn.
I mean, we didn't start out with 120 projects 6 years ago.
We appreciate Jay. He is tireless worker on this effort, and so we want to give him a little minute.
No, we didn't start out with 120, and we haven't until now had over 200. So we're looking at well over 200 projects on our docket for not only Make a Difference Day, but the 100-day cleanup until later this summer. So we take great pride. There is what it means is what it says in the words, Make a Difference Day. We do make a difference community-wide. And it's great to see all of our volunteers come together and put forth all the effort that they do. We couldn't do it with the thousands of volunteer hours that we have from our citizenry. So we appreciate the support of the council, the support of administration, and we'll continue to keep knocking these projects out and making our community the best community in the world to live in. So thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
We've got to probably toot Vice Chair Gochner's horn just a little bit too. This is kind of her thing. She pushes really hard on that, and it is one of the things that makes Ogden a great place to live. Thank you. Next item is Government Finance Officers Association Award presentation, and is that going to be given by Lori? Here she comes.
Good evening. It's a delight to be here to represent UGFOA in presenting this award. One of the board members that had planned to be here came down with pneumonia, and everyone else is presenting their budgets tonight as well. But it is a pleasure to be here and present this award. The Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA, is pleased to announce that Ogden City Corporation has received the GFOA's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for its fiscal year 2013-2014 budget. In order to receive the budget award, the entity had to satisfy nationally recognized guidelines for effective budget presentation. These guidelines are designed to assess how well an entity's budget serves as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, as well as a communications device. And while I have just a couple of minutes, I need to acknowledge the staff and the work that goes into this budget. And with Camille Cook's lead, she takes the lead on the budget, and she really does a fabulous job. And she works so very, very hard. And she has taken this budget award really to the next level. And every year when we get the budget award, it tells you what you've done well, and it tells you things that you need to improve. And I know that she's taken that very seriously, and she looks at those things that we need to improve on or could do a little better. And we think, what can we do better? How can we do this a little better? Lisa is also here, and she, and if they would both stand, Lisa and Camille, they're in the very back, trying to not be noticed. They really do work very, very hard on this, and Lisa does the CAFR, and that's kind of her thing, but she helps with the budget as well, and was very helpful with the budget presentation tonight as well. But the whole staff puts a lot of effort into this, and I just wanted to recognize them. And this award represents the 17th award for Ogden. And so it really is my honor to present this award to Mayor Mike Caldwell. Thank you.
Thank you. No action necessary on this one. Congratulations.
A huge thank you to Laurie, Camille, and Lisa for everything they've done to put this together. This is on their backs, and it'll be an award that's hung in their office, so thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's quite an accomplishment when they can accept it for 17 times, so we do have a great staff.
Next item is item number 5, request to be on the agenda, Hill Air Force Base. Major Christopher Long and Kevin Ireland. Why don't you come forward and make your presentation?
Ladies and gentlemen, the City Council, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. My name is Major Chris Long. I'm from Hill Air Force Base. I work in the 75th Operations Support Squadron as the Director of Operations. And it's my great pleasure to be one of the key members leading the effort, at least at Hill, for the Hill Air Force Base Air Show and Open House, which will be occurring on the 28th and 29th of June of this year. In case you didn't know, the Hill Air Force Base Air Show is one of the biggest air shows in the West. It's, in fact, you could even argue it's one of the biggest in the country. We generally have a turnout between 400,000 to 500,000 people, and that's what we're expecting this year. We have over a dozen premier world-class acts, including the United States Air Force Thunderbirds and the U.S. Army Golden Knights. We also have a number of civilian performers that will be doing aerobatics and acrobatics with their aircraft. We'll have probably about 24 military aircraft displays and probably another dozen civilian aircraft displays. So a lot of aerospace, a lot of air power on display for the public. It's completely free, so there won't be anything charged at the gate, maybe potentially for some parking fees. We're working that out. But for the most part, the event is completely free. And if I could speak personally for a moment, I'm actually a native of Utah. I was born in Salt Lake City. My grandfather worked at Hill Air Force Base at the depot. He worked on F-16s. Before that, he was in the Army Air Corps. Now, why that's important is I remember as a child going up to the Hill Air Force Base Air Show in the 80s and seeing all the displays and everything there was to be offered. And it was very inspiring. I ended up pursuing a degree in mathematics and meteorology at the University of Utah, which what I'm trying to make a connection here is there's a tie to the past, there's a tie to the heritage of the state, which Hill Air Force Base is a big part of. And it encouraged me to seek a profession involved in the sciences, which I know is important for this day and age with STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that's what the Hill Air Force Base Air Show can do. It puts all of that on display, and it inspires people in a way that's very meaningful. I've been in the Air Force now for about 15 years, and it's been a very rewarding experience for me. And that's really what the Air Show is for the Air Force. It's a recruiting and retention tool. And I know that there are going to be a lot of young folks that are going to be attending this air show, and they're going to be inspired by it. They're going to be the people that follow me in the footsteps in terms of national service, and also potentially we may have some future Charles Lindberghs, some future Neil Armstrongs out there that'll come from Utah that will be inspired at the air show. So I encourage everyone to make time for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kevin Ireland. He's the head of the Top of Utah Military Affairs Committee, or excuse me, one of the lead planners. And he's actually going to talk about the economic impact and what the military-civilian partnership does for the state of Utah. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Council, it's great to be with you again this evening. I just want to give you a little bit of the facts and figures about what we've been doing. I've been involved since 1995 in helping to grow the community support for Hill Air Force Base and the Air Show. This year, we're going to be contributing about $460,000 to support the Air Show and make it happen so it's free to the community, so we can bring in these acts and to make it one of the top world-class shows in the country. To such an extent that the Air Force is now studying Hill Air Force Base, and we're in the final running to be one of the beta test sites for community military partnerships for air shows around the country. They like what we've been doing. They like how we've been raising the money. They like the partnership between the two, so they're very interested in seeing what we're doing and how we make it work. The impact to the state is between $35 and $45 million for a single 2-day event. There's no other event in the state of Utah that has that kind of economic impact to the state. So it is important. The governor will be there this year, as he has come the last several shows. I know the mayor was there in 12. I hope we see him out there again this year. It's a great opportunity to bring your families out and enjoy a free opportunity to really see what our Air Force has to offer and how they protect our borders. It's a fabulous opportunity to get out in the sun, and it'll be warm this year. We're in late June, 28 and 29. We were a little chilly last time. But we're going to have great weather. We're expecting extra large crowds this year because of the warmth. And I would hope that all of you could make it out. It really is important to not just the northern part of the state, but to the entire state. That's why the state of Utah supports us through funding, and that's why so many businesses across the state contribute to our funding to help make this show happen. So please come out. Questions?
Any questions for Mr. Ireland?
Kevin, you mentioned parking, but
yes,
I'm sure there will be a partnership with UTA like there was last time. And
you know, I'm glad you bring that up. We're having a little bit of struggle with that this year. We had an agreement in place, and it's waffling right now, so we're trying to work that out right now. So any good words you could put in on our behalf towards that would be helpful. We have hired a bus company to do all the busing on base, but right now we're trying to work with UTA to get back and forth from the front gate over to the front runner station. So that's what we're in negotiations with right now. So we're still working that. We're hoping we can get that solidified.
I think that was real important, and last time with the weather, it helped get people off.
No question. That is an integral part to moving all that traffic. We can only park about 65,000 on base. Everything else has to be parked elsewhere. So that is so important, and we really are trying to push the front runner because we want the people from the south to come up this way, and what better way to do that than jump on front runner, get a bus, and come right on base. So that's what we're working for. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
What is the time of your event? When does it start?
Gates open at 8 o'clock. RC remote control planes will start flying approximately 10 a.m. We'll have the national anthem and everything around 10:30, and then there will be planes in the sky flying right up until 4:30, 4:45, which will be the Thunderbirds will finish off the day. Mayor?
Major Long, I appreciate your service. Thank you very much. And Kevin, I appreciate you volunteering for this. We appreciate everything all of our service people do up there. We'll work on the UTA piece, and again, want to offer our gratitude, and I'd advise everyone to wear your sunscreen.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, thank you. Great event.
Thank you.
Next item is the approval of minutes. First is the town meeting of February 11th, 2014, and the study session of February 18th, 2014. Vice Chair Gochner.
Yes, thank you. I've reviewed those and found them to be accurate.
And the next is joint study session and closed session of March 25th, 2014. Councilmember Blair.
Yes, thank you. I have reviewed those and found them to be accurate.
And the regular meeting of March 25th, 2014. Councilmember Garner.
Yes, Chair Heyer, I've reviewed those and found them to be correct to the best of my recollection.
And the work session of March 25th, 2014. Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Chair, they're correct.
And the study session, regular meeting, and closed session of April 1st, 2014. Councilmember White.
Yes, Chair Heyer, I've reviewed those and found them to be correct. And with that, I would move to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember White, seconded by Councilmember Blair to approve the minutes. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, the next item is our common consent items. A and B, Golden Hours Committee appointments, and the annexation petition for 450 North Jefferson Avenue.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we accept the appointments on the item A, and on item B, accept the petition for further review and certification.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion by Vice Chair Cockner, seconded by, who are you again? Councilmember Garner. And let's see, is this is a voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
And
Any
I think
opposed?
some of these people are here from the Golden Hour Center tonight, too.
Do we want to have them stand and recognize them?
Let's have them maybe stand, all those from the Golden Hour Center that are here.
The committee is for committee members. Great.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service.
Okay, the next item is reports from administration. Item A, New D School and Community Center project. Mr. Ogden.
Chair, members of the council, the purpose of this item is to consider a joint resolution between with the mayor and the council to consider the community center that's proposed for the new D school that's going to be built on the 2100 block of Madison Avenue, and specifically with the intent of relocating the Golden Hour Center to that site. The provision would be that the mayor would be empowered to negotiate the provisions of that move with the school district and to come back to the council with recommendations of funding. So that's the resolution, the intent of the resolution. As you know, so I'm just going to have to help me out with the arrows. I'm going to have to do this because I want to walk through these slides pretty quickly so that we can have plenty of time for the public comment. Just want to start with a brief look at the school itself and how the community center plays into that school concept. A year ago, the City Council adopted an interlocal agreement with the school district to work towards the development of the new school. And since that time, the designs have been put together, which include the community center, which is the north wing of that school. The current plans include a senior component of that community center. The final plans are estimated to be done in May, very shortly. And then construction is estimated to start in August, and then 2 years later, the school would be complete and operational. And here's a picture. A lot of this has been out in the paper, and so a lot of people have seen the proposed site. It's the Liberty Park is on the right. 2100 Madison runs right through the middle of the site, and the north boundary is 21st Street, south boundary is 22nd Street, and the west boundary is Jefferson Avenue. The north wing, as I said, is the community center. So here's kind of how it sits on the land and how it interfaces with the parking and the traffic flow and entries. We're presented with an opportunity. The school district has invited, or let me just start with the community center just quickly. The characteristics of the community center include 15,000 square feet for the entry and the gym. The Boys and Girls Club is almost 11,000 feet, and that's on the second floor. The proposed senior center is 9,500 square feet, and that is on the first floor as it's currently designed. Here's a quick look at the upper level designed for the Boys and Girls Club with the spaces that they require for their use. It also includes a walking and running track around, you see the blue-green area around the gym is a track that could be used for walking and running. and also viewing down into the basketball and gym court area. This is the first level. It involves the gym, the senior center, and the entry. The bulk of the lower part of the drawing is the senior center. And then there's an entry on the left and the gym on the upper portion. We're currently faced with a challenge relative to the Golden Hours Center, and so we're trying to look at ways of maybe making these two, the opportunity and the challenge, fit together and see if there's a way to make some synergy there. So the Golden Hours Center, just quickly, was built in 1968. It has an outdated design. It's a study done in the fall of 2013 showed that there's $2.5 million in repairs that are needed. Over the past several years, we've been paying extra each year to keep the facility sort of patched together and paying extra on our facility costs. So that's kind of the basis for the reason to look at dealing with the Golden Hours Center in some way. Currently, the Golden Hours Center has deferred maintenance of almost $1.4 million. And the definition of that is that these are elements of the building that have outlived their useful life. They're kind of on borrowed time now, and some are failing, having to be kind of patched together, but they're beyond their useful life or their calendared life. There's another $1.2 million in repairs that are scheduled to be needed within the next 10 years. So the total then would be $2.5 million. Just quickly run through some pictures to familiarize everyone with the Golden Hours Center. They're on 25th Street at Madison Avenue. The parking lot view, looking from the west to the east. The library, of course, is behind us as we're standing here. The social hall area, the entry reception area, one of the classrooms that has multiple uses, the craft area, hallway, the pool room, computer center, the fitness area, and the lounge area, and then the patio on the north side. So one of the solutions that are being considered is relocating to the community center. It's an alternative we're trying to discuss. The school district has invited the city to consider relocating the Golden Hours Center there and taking part in that community center. Another element that's worthy of consideration is that there's a significant effort at raising funds and a unique opportunity to take advantage of the tax credits that are available. I won't get into the details of the tax credits, but it's a funding mechanism that the school district is using to generate equity that does not need to be paid back. And a significant amount of money is going into the community center that can help to drive down the cost so that won't have to be financed. This proposal was taken to the senior leadership on March 11th, and then at an open house on St. Patrick's Day, where a lot of people attended and had an opportunity to hear from the architect and see the drawings and ask questions and get answers at that point in time. And since that time, there have been a number of opportunities to discuss things at the Golden Hours Center, pass out flyers, and some talking points that have been given to seniors at this point. So hopefully tonight we'll get some feedback from some of the seniors that have seen that information and have opinions and ideas. So just to quickly, this is just a kind of a list of the things that are offered in the community center in the senior space: a heated entry vestibule, a reception area, 2 offices, a store for sale of crafts and other items, a lounge area with a pool table area, restrooms, kitchen, social hall where most of the dining takes place, and for larger gatherings, the gym would be used. A fitness center, which is 3 times the size of the fitness center in the current facility. 3 multi-purpose rooms for classes and crafts and health screenings, an elevator that accesses the walking track on the 2nd level. Again, access to the full-size gym for not only fitness but other programming. and a patio on the outside on the east, facing the park. Again, just to refresh our memory in terms of the layout of the facility, as you can see, the items I just mentioned, the social hall in yellow, the fitness area on the lower left on the blue-green, and then classroom just above that, a large classroom, and then arts and crafts off to the right, and health room and kitchen kind of in the middle, and then the lounge area is kind of in the brown. The development costs of the facility are estimated to be $5.5 million, and that's just the community center. The New Markets tax credits, as I mentioned, this is money that's not paid back, anticipated to be $2.7 million. So that's a very significant investment that is coming free of charge, so to speak, and that comes along with the development of the school. $1.2 million has already been pledged, which leaves $1.6 million in donations that would need to be acquired. The fundraising campaign is underway, and they've targeted $6.5 million. Not that they'll get it all, but out of $6.5 million, 1.6 is an acceptable goal, and hopefully more. So how does it fit? Here's a comparison of the spaces. The Golden Hour Center has 12,500 feet. As you see, the Senior Center is 3,000 feet smaller in dedicated space, and that would require, obviously, the gym and the track area to be used for some of to kind of make up the difference in the space itself. So that's part of the program, is to use the gym. The patio, obviously, is about the same size, but when you add up the available size, the community center has a lot more available space, and so then it comes down to how that's programmed and how well the spaces in the community center can accommodate the uses that are anticipated for the seniors, the multiple use rooms and that kind of thing. So that's a consideration.
But the gym would have multiple users, and so use for golden hours would
That's
have to
right.
be scheduled.
Yes, it would definitely have to be scheduled in order to accommodate the use for the senior center. Parking comparisons, Golden Hour Center has 67, which includes some on the curb. The community center would have 113, and again, that includes some on the curb. Plus, there's additional parking in front of the school, which is a short walk, an additional 55. So there's a lot more parking available at the community center. Granted, it's a common use facility, and so there would be some other users there. But the school use is not anticipated to be in the Golden Hours parking area. Public transportation is kind of an important thing to look at. These are the three routes that correspond with both the Golden Hours and the community center. As you can see, there are three routes that come within vicinity of the Golden Hours Center. The 603 doesn't really touch the community center very closely, but there are two routes within one block with stops within one block of each of the facilities. That's kind of helpful as a comparison. And quickly to look at the bus routes, here's the 603, which runs up 25th Street, and the two stops are in the gray arrows showing where those stops are. And each of those are within a block of the facility. You can see the 606 route, which comes up 24th Street and goes along Monroe Boulevard. The two stops there at 21st and 22nd are about a block away from the proposed community center. So those are kind of, the usable stops for both the 606 and the 645 route. They're used for both. So that's currently the situation on the transportation.
How does the frequency compare on those two?
The frequency, I'm not sure in terms of, does anyone know?
It doesn't. The 603 is a high-frequency bus, and the one on Monroe is not.
Yeah, there are two on Monroe, so I'm not certain in terms of we'd have to look into that with the UTA in terms of, providing service.
If approval's given, then we will sit down with UTA and talk about the routes but we haven't done so because we're waiting to see if we're going to move that way. But we did initially talk with one of the trustees today, and he said that they would be very interested in sitting down and looking at the routes if we decide to go this direction.
That's right. And some of the feedback we've received is, there's a fair amount of bus traffic, but a lot of the seniors also use Handytrans, which of course goes direct to the door. In terms of public. So just quickly through the cost comparisons, I didn't want to get too heavy into the numbers, but just to look at the cost of that $2.5 million and how that's programmed based on the consultant's recommendations over a 10-year schedule. It would many years would have a peak and a valley, but on average it would be about $250,000 a year over 10 years to cover that. If it's possible to extend some of those repairs, they may not wait 20 years, but if it was possible to extend some of those things out and average them over a 20-year period, it would be $127,000 a year. Another alternative is to simply wait for things to break and then fix them, and then so we'd have in the budget some significant spikes as things, either the maintenance or the replacement of some of the significant items there. These are alternatives.
Sorry, can we get a copy of the document that you're citing that lists all the repairs needed for city facilities?
Yes, I believe that was in your packet.
Buried in the packet?
Or it might have been in the packet for the work session, but I think it is included.
Yeah, I remember seeing that it was
I remember seeing something, but I'm assuming that's what you're
In fact,
citing.
I think it is. In fact, I saw it when I looked at the agenda today. It's in there.
Okay.
So anyway, here's some alternatives that we're thinking about.
The cost of a new building, if we were to actually build a new community center, would be what?
It'd be in a few $1 million range, 2 to 3. Based on the numbers that we're hearing from the construction of the school, we're looking at about $160 a foot. And that may be more because the gym itself is included in that number.
And our
which has a lot of space.
Cost for the proposed center is what compared?
The cost for the proposed center? Well, the overall is $5.5 million.
5.5.
Yeah, to build a center that big, obviously, would be quite a bit more than to get the 12,500 square feet that you've currently got at the Golden Hour Center.
So it's higher than the proposed cost to build a new community center. Not on the site where it is proposed would be more expensive than the one we're looking at.
Certainly, yes, because we're only taking part of the building and then of course sharing in the gym cost. So the overall cost to the city would be quite a bit less because we're able to share that space compared to a new construction project.
Sorry, going back to the facilities renewal needs assessment, we just have a few pages from the executive summary, not the. It would be nice to have the whole document because I'm sure there are other city facilities in there as well.
Did I make that available to you, Janine?
Yeah, I have the whole document.
Okay, so you can get that.
A copy of that would be nice.
It's probably 10 or 15 pages long. So yeah, it's got a lot of good information. And I'm sorry I'm able to get into a lot of details on that right now, but just a quick look at, and again, your council staff did a very good job at laying these out in probably even a better way in terms of comparisons, but it's the same numbers, just kind of in a better comparison. But comparing the Golden Hour Center, if you were to repair it over a 10-year schedule, you're looking at, with the existing utility and facility costs, you're looking at $329,000 a year. If that were to be able to stretch out to 20 years, we're looking at $201,000 compared to the estimated costs of $184,000 at the community center. So you're seeing the community center, these numbers show a savings. The other significant factor here is that the next to bottom line there shows it's labeled maximum debt service payment of $133,000. And that is as if none of the fundraising came through that was able to pay for that $1.6 million for, what I mentioned earlier, that, the donations. And if none of those donations came through and the city needed to pay the cost of building its own space, this is equal to $2 million, just kind of to round it up and say this is what would be the cost of servicing the debt on $2 million. So we're confident that it's going to be less than that, and the hope is that it would be zero, because if all the funds come through to pay the cost of construction, then the cost to the city for its involvement in the community center would be the upper two, the utility costs and the operation and maintenance costs, which are in the $50,000 range, which again is a very significant savings compared to keeping the existing facility and trying to maintain it over time or rebuild it.
So what is the plan for the existing facility if this is to go through?
That would be another discussion, but there are some comments relative to the need for additional green space at the park if the library expands its parking and various things like that. So it could be, and I guess the overall idea is that the facility is kind of worn out and that it's going to take a lot of money to make it come back up to a standard that would be usable from the city or someone else.
And to follow up on that, then if we did keep that building, then we'd have to maintain it anyways. So there would be some cost involved in that as well.
Sure. And so the proposal that you see in your packet has to do with demolition, just hypothetically, if it were demolished to remove it. And then there would be a one-time cost for the demolition and then beyond that. And then, so just quickly to look at some of the balancing action. Obviously, there's more, and hopefully we'll get some feedback from the public that can give us a little bit more insight in some of the balancing acts. But keeping the existing facility and using it, we keep our options open for the future. We know that we've got all our options. We know the facility, and it's a known quantity, and we know how to use it, that kind of thing. We can control the space. It's just one user, and it's us. Versus the fact that we've gotten potentially higher operating cost, fairly significantly higher operating cost, and that if we bypass this opportunity to participate with the community center, we may not get an opportunity to get a facility that has no capital cost. So there's the possibility of getting into a senior facility that doesn't cost the city capital cost to acquire it. So those are some of the balancing acts on staying. On moving to the community center, there's some things to consider. The new facility has a longer lifespan. We have economies of space overall because we're able to share some of the spaces with the other users. There's a greater overall space available and lower annual operating costs. Again, some of the balancing acts that we enter into a long-term lease, we have to do that, so we're kind of locked into that for a significant period of time. We need to coordinate with the other gym users, and our expansions are basically limited to off-site because we're, as we mentioned, we're kind of at the envelope. The building can't really be expanded beyond where it's at. So here are some of the, kind of to start the discussion, the balancing acts that we're proposing. So if you have any other questions, be happy to answer them.
Questions for Mr. Ogden?
It seems like our enrollment for senior citizens has increased over the years. Does this new facility, is it adequate to provide the services that would be rendered to the seniors?
Well, it's a very good question because the space the way the space is being designed is it's designed in such a way that there's multiple uses for the room. So there's always going to be that push and pull in terms of how spaces are used and how they're used over time and how many people can fit in the facility. But again, it does have a smaller space that's dedicated to the seniors by 3,000 feet. And so that brings up the question, as I mentioned earlier, that we would have to dedicate the gym to other uses, larger uses, maybe multiple uses over time. And so in terms of expansion, a gym space that's 13,000 feet. That's bigger than the current facility is altogether. And so, I'm not sure how the eventual programming would go, but there's certainly a lot of flexibility there. And it also raises the question of what happens, out into the future in terms of the needs for seniors in different parts of town or different potential sites that could accommodate different types of programming. And so, as we mentioned earlier in one of our work sessions, we're really at a decision point where we can choose to enter this pathway of going along the lines of taking a facility that might cost us very little to operate, but may have some limitations on expansion, and then have to work on finding ways to do expansion in the future or off-site uses or multiple sites. Those are some things that would need to be considered. And then again, looking at where we're at with the Golden Hour Center now, and if we choose to stay, then that puts us on a path of we either need to fix it up or build a new one or find another site. But the argument the administration has at this point is that it seems like the community center at the school is a good opportunity to consider getting into a facility that may have a very significantly lower capital cost, and would most likely have a lower operating cost over time. So the pros and cons you'd have to weigh in terms of how you go into the future on both of those alternatives. But we don't have a lot of time to make the decision, so that's why we're kind of pressed.
We could use other centers throughout the Weber County area as an activity where we would go over to maybe to North Ogden or Riverdale or someplace.
Well,
like
it's certainly
that.
something that would need to be considered in terms of the senior centers around the county and that are within the vicinity, and how they can help to coordinate and accommodate the needs of seniors overall. So yeah, it's certainly a good consideration.
And so if we invest in the existing building, we own that building, and that is held by Ogden City. If we go with this option to put the senior center in the community center, it's just a lease, and we don't have any.
Right. And again, that's a very good point, and that comes down to, so how do we negotiate that lease? And is it long enough for us to feel comfortable that that's the route we want to go, particularly if it costs very little to get in? Can we negotiate a super long lease and and buy our time that way? So
the lease has not been negotiated yet, or?
No, there are deal points in place, but these are all things that need to be worked out. And of course, we're waiting for comment and feedback on that. But obviously, our intent is to do a long-term lease, and the school district has expressed that intent as well. So.
Ward, will you talk a little bit about the new market tax credits? I think I understand that if those, for some reason, don't go through, the school still goes forward. What about the community center?
Yeah. The tax credits are a federal program which gives credits to the investors who basically pay for the school. So it's the big banks and the funders that come. And the community center is a critical aspect of their ability and willingness to come and do this project. So if we didn't have a community center, they wouldn't come. But if they, for some reason, don't pick the project and don't fund it, then the tax credits aren't there, and the school district then has the opportunity to, or the options of building the school without the community center, still doing the fundraising and building the community center and trying to raise the funds for it, or they could choose to wait. And they haven't told us what their specific intent is in terms of, what to do right now if the tax credits don't come through. So it really comes down to kind of back to square one if they don't get their tax credits in terms of the decision point. There's a lot of momentum for the school. It's been designed. They're ready to bid. They own the land. So we're expecting that they would move forward and finance it a different way.
When would you know about the new tax credits?
The 1st of June, around the 1st of June.
Has this been tried anywhere else that you've been able to find?
Tax credits or?
The partnership with the senior center, Boys and Girls Club with the school. Is that kind of happened anywhere else that you've been able to see what worked and what didn't?
Yeah. Daybreak Elementary is probably maybe the best local example that we've found. The Roy Hope Center has, it's not attached to a school, and so you got Boys and Girls Club, City Rec, and the senior center there. But the community center at Daybreak Elementary is probably a good example.
Okay.
I would think Bountiful City has a community center that's close to a high school that it's not only used by the students, but also by the citizens of the community.
And what was that again?
Bountiful.
Oh, Bountiful.
Yeah.
Rec center, Doug. It's not, they have a separate senior center.
And Ward, you mentioned, the future
It's
might
not
need
attached.
multiple sites. And that's probably
just
something
saying
we
that
really
those are
will need to look
alternatives.
at in the future, something in the north end of town. And, this population definitely is going to continue to age and grow.
That's right. Yeah. We're not proposing this as the final answer. It's really an opportunity to deal with the challenge that we're currently facing with the Golden Hour Center and to put us on track to maybe have some success in maybe other areas as well.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is, we're going to open up for public input at this point. If you have comments on this particular proposal, if you'd please come to the microphone and give us your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Travis Pate. I believe I spoke with you several times before with regards to that. I've spoken with the representative from Jordan School District as well as Daybreak, and they've yet to hear from administration or anyone else with regards to Daybreak, the interactions of the community center that they have with the elementary school. It's also the Daybreak Dolphins, just like we have the D Dolphins, so I think those similarities are there. They've yet to hear from anybody. And so that's fairly disconcerting. Yes, there is one locally, but we do need to contact them to find out what the pros and cons are. They've suggested that the community center representative suggested that an adjacent or site sharing, but not building adjoining center. Because the security concerns that has been posed and answered by the elementary school, their centralized camera unit is only accessible through the elementary school, so if they have a concern or problem inside the community center, they have to wait through school district approval to get the security aspects. I don't believe this is the proper time and proper resolution. We did an alternatives analysis study to get from downtown to Weber State. Why don't we do it for Golden Hours? We have a court center that is being rebuilt. The current juvenile court won awards for reuse. Can the justice court just be moved there and the Golden Hours be placed in this site right central, right to a park, central to every 15 minutes a bus? For administration to say we don't know the bus routes and timings, rideuta.com has all the bus timings. Those could have been put as part of your packet presentation. I think it's premature to move the Golden Hour Center there without, so to speak, an internal or just as I suggested, alternatives analysis study with regards to that. The juvenile court is moving. A beautiful court building is becoming vacant. A single level parking accessible, ADA accessible building is right here on this property. And Social Security is right across the street. You can get passports a block away at the Weber Center. You can get Health and Human Services right across the street. There's a lot more to this. Again, I can't emphasize a north-facing senior center, winter storms, come on, really? One broken hip, how much is that worth in a $20,000 savings per senior center? So I don't believe the resolution should be adopted. I think too many kinks are in the system and it needs to be worked out. There's already sites that are available that could be readily used and at a minimal cost. We own that building. Justice Court could probably sell pretty reasonably to another taxpayer entity such as the city. Plenty of parking. I just think it's very frustrating that a lot of those things haven't been addressed. And the school district doesn't own all the property. The property west of the property line outside the initial approved project area is Ogden City and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Those are not approved yet. Possibly in negotiation, but they want to negotiate and trade parking for parking. Where's the town center? Or where's the homes that are proposed on the current B-School site? Nope, we're going to trade it to the LDS Church for parking. What's the original letter? I mean, those are the things that have not been answered, and I don't think the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Thank you.
Thanks.
As a user of the Golden Hour Center, and I am probably one of the youngest.
Could you give us your name and address, please?
I am Lynn Dooley. I live at 1021 North, 925 East, Ogden, Utah, and I have a lot of very big concerns. I'm not happy with the Ogden City School District part. We have a vacant school that is deteriorating that could be used if you're busing kids. But as it comes to senior citizens, today we had 17 of us in a knitting group sitting in the middle of the center. And the consensus was we'd rather stay there than go to a smaller center. As one of the youngest people there, my generation is going to be one of the biggest. And our center is going to have a lot of changes in the next few years. We are going to be doing different things because as a 62-year-old, I do different things than my mother did at 62. We are into modern conveniences. We are into Starbucks. We're into a different whole attitude. This exercise area is very well used, and it's not being used to its fullest because our quilt group's in there, because there's no other place in that center to use, because we're small, too small for that center now in some of the areas that we can even expand upon. And we're going to be expanding because as I look at this little group here, several of you are going to be in that group with me. And you guys are going to have your ideas of what you want to do. And if you're in a center that is smaller than what we have now, you're not going to be able to do it. We are looking at it as a few other things too. We don't want to really be connected with school. I've volunteered all the way through schools. I was a Booster Club president at Ben Lomond. I was in Scouts. I have been in everything, and now I'm in a group for me. That might sound selfish, but it's not. It's my time. I am there because I want to associate with people my age, with my beliefs, and my ideas, and my talents, and things that we do. I don't want to be in a school. I was told by the school district they want to use us as mentors, which is great. There are a lot of people who like to be mentors, but you know what? I have 5 grandchildren I mentor, and I'm not really into mentoring other people's kids because there's a lot of problems with that, and those parents need to be with their children and grew up. Our kids prospered because we were there for them. Now it's time for us to do our thing. And there is a lot that seniors do. I don't expect to be in a wheelchair in the next 2 years. I expect to be like a lot of the friends I have that are 93 years old, still driving and going to these places and doing exercises and stuff. So I really don't see this new center as a plus for the seniors. I like this new idea that I just heard, because we haven't even heard this about this justice court. That even sounds even better to us. And we would like to explore, know more about that. But we would rather stay at our center, and out of 17 people today, that was almost the total consensus of that group. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Catherine Metzenbaum. I live at 546 Chester here in Ogden, and I'm the one who's inundating you with handouts, and I apologize. I misunderstood that I only needed to make about 7 copies. My concerns echo almost precisely these 2 previous commenters, and particularly the gentleman who said this is premature. I don't hear any of these safety concerns being addressed for the seniors that I've noted on my paperwork here. Almost everybody at that center wears hearing aids. That's a big deal when you have children trampling above you. We love kids, but not when we're trying to sit and visit with one another because we can't hear. We're going to have a lot of traffic concerns there. Parents bring their kids to school and pick them up. We don't have that kind of concern where we're currently at. It's going to be a danger. We'll have a lot more sidewalk traffic. We have people in walkers. A lot of us are a little wobbly, and it doesn't take much to knock us over. I'm just running through this very, very, very briefly. And again, the space is going to be smaller. And sharing a gym, you know who's going to be last on the list? Us. We have tap dance, line dance, ballroom dance, all kinds of dancing going on. We do things in our currently large gym. This is not really a workable solution for, in my opinion, to park us at a community center. And I've got a funny section in here for you to read about what I would do if I were a child on that second floor. I'd go find the donuts in the senior center. One thing that I'm thinking of is give the whole senior center to the kids. Our youth need places to hang out other than Newgate Mall. Do a little bit different configuration. I've suggested another skate park. Stack the gym and the recreation center there. And what I keep hearing from the professional sort of people is, how much money is it going to cost? We seniors are not a bag of groceries you can just kind of put on a shelf. We have feelings, we have a lot of needs that are very different than the young people, and that's okay. And it's okay for them to shriek and yell and run and shout. That's what kids do. They're supposed to. But we're not in that situation right now. We need our own space, and the idea of having the billiards in the same area where the knitting and crocheting is going on, the jigsaw puzzles, the people reading books, the people drinking their coffee and reading the paper, that is absolutely not going to happen. The guys and the women who play billiards make a lot of noise. They're having fun. The other people won't be able to hear. And I mentioned in my papers here, hearing aids over and over. And the last page is just a rundown of things I got off the internet for the growth of our baby boomer population. And I put my email address on there if you'd like to contact me. Thank you very, very much for letting us make these comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jump in here and give my report. My name is Eugene Erickson, 131 Sam Gates Road, and I'm a member of the Senior Advisory Committee at the center, Golden Hour Center, and we had a discussion this afternoon, and we came out with the pros and cons of moving the facility over to the new school area. And the pros were that we were getting a new facility, we're getting a gym, and we're getting a walking track that we don't currently have now. But the cons outweighed the pros by quite a bit. First was this space issue, which we've already discussed here tonight, and when it's being downsized. And then we're thinking about future growth. And I don't know what the prediction of future growth would be, but I'm assuming with all the baby boomers coming to retirement age, we would have an increased number. So that is a downsize. And also scheduling was mentioned already tonight. Different programs throughout the summer might interfere with the golden hour activities, and the sound, different activities going out through the whole area might have a tendency to drive away the seniors. And we're also losing the patio access, which could actually be incorporated into a expansion. So those were some of our concerns, and we don't want to move into a facility that would be, the usage would be unfriendly, and we would and lose our membership clientele as we have now. And that's what my report is. Thank you.
My name's William Bryant. I live at 2632 Gramercy Avenue here in Ogden. I just had a couple of questions. Why did you decide that it should be joined with a school? I'm kind of curious as to why that was decided. Why you would want to incorporate a senior citizen home with a school. And another thing, how many people are served by the current center versus how many would be served at the new facility? And another thing, there's Three Links Tower, and that's in the vicinity of the current senior citizen home. And I think that there's a more concentration of elderly people around the current center than there would be with this new location. I'm not sure about that, but I'm just curious about that too. I think, I guess that's about all I have to say. If I could get a response to some of those questions, thank you.
We try to answer the questions at the end. We'll get somebody from staff to try to address your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Virginia Hernandez Raza. This is new to our community. Just came up all of a sudden. I was reading what's been going on. This has been in the planning session for a year. And I'm very involved with this community, with the elderly too. And we have not heard anything, no consideration to the senior citizen people, the elderly in that huge area, that what is up ahead is just dumped on us. I think that is so unfair. And the community development, I know how they operate, not thoroughly, but what I'm seeing now is it's not going to be good. One is that they do not, whoever they partnership, Ogden City School, I'll go over that too. I speak for the people. He speaks for, his boss, the administration. You guys, you're supposed to represent us, and I know you're going to hear us. But anyway, let me just get where I want to go. I'm very disappointed when I heard that the administration thinks this is such a good idea because money cost. I know the mayor's been in, going on 2 years? I don't know how much familiar he is with this community, but we go way back. And this senior citizen, he should look more into it and not really look at the cost. For one thing is that they talk about tax credits, community development. Well, let me tell you something. I believe that the federal government is the one that gives help that center, that area, with tax exempts, federal money. Senior citizen golden hour could use that help if they're going to rebuild it or whatever they're going to do. And I think you need to look into that more. So I want to just say to the mayor, I don't know how much you know about that part of Ogden, the inner city, that part of Ogden where a lot of people do go to that golden hour for years. They may not be using it as much as previous years, but it's picking up because just what these ladies were talking about. They need a place to go. They want something for their own, and that's their place. It's an empowerment issue. Another thing is that you're going to partnership with Ogden City School. Let me bring this question up to you. D was supposed to be torn down 2006. I was on that bond committee. I was on that committee that went out to the taxpayers that said we will pay for all the changes of the schools, also for making new schools. But they said in that plan, and we're going to look into that, they said in that plan, okay, D's got to go. Everybody agreed on it. That was in the agreement for the, so D's still there. So if you're thinking of taking down a golden hour because of the cost, do what D's doing. Now they're building a new city a new D school at taxpayers' expense. Look more, and I agree with all these people. They need that center. They don't need to be in a school, an elementary school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Carol Hartman in Patterson, on Patterson in Ogden. Just a couple of things that I noted as we were talking and listening to this. When we first were informed of this a month and a half ago, I was really, frankly, very excited about the prospect of a move. I really was. Even with the knowing that we'd have a little less space, little. As it's gone on and we've learned more, little has become little. Our area where we eat and dance at our Golden Hour Center now would be cut in half. We would only have half that space. It hasn't been brought to your attention yet, but Golden Hours has groups that comes in at night, 3 and 4 nights a week of square dancing groups for the community. These are older people as well as younger people that are out and exercising and bringing in entertainment. They're great. It's wonderful. You see these groups in our parades all the time, dancing on there. How they do it is beyond me on a moving vehicle. But it's used for more than just us old people. And also, when we're talking about the costs, one person said, well, you know, we can go to other senior centers. Well, as a matter of fact, I do. I frequent 3 different senior centers because I like to take the classes, and one senior center cannot provide all the classes that are available to everybody's liking. But if we split up and went to all the different senior centers, then how many senior centers does Ogden Help provide for? And how many do Weber County provide for? I know that Weber County is over the one in Roy, along with Roy City. Weber County helps with ours, don't they? And South Ogden and Roy, isn't Weber County also helping with them? Maybe not Ogden City, but it's still going to be a bill there for them to be transferred over. I personally am excited to stay where we're at, are in a facility that is our own with room to grow. We do need that. Within the next 10 years, we expect, and this is through the family aging and the Meals on Wheels people we talked to today, they expect a 20 to 30% increase in the older population within 10 years. That's a big group that we're looking for that is not being serviced by us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Mr. James Carroll. I preside at 2634 Quincy, apartment 1 in Ogden. Since I've lived here in Ogden, I've seen so many wonderful things that become a future for not only senior citizens, but all individuals within the communities, within the neighborhood. I feel that something like this, because I spend a lot of time at the community action, the community center too. The atmosphere, the friendship, the enjoyment of the activities that you have there. I feel that why should we let our minds go say, well, we got to go here, we got to go over there, because Ogden don't have what we need. And I feel that by not only the Golden Hours, but other community activities and things that's going to go into this new project, I feel like it's going to gain revenue. It's going to gain more money than what's put into the project. And I really believe it's going to pay off in the long run, and thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Looks like there isn't any more. Any discussion?
The board, someone address their the questions?
Yes, that's a good idea. Mr. Ogden, could you address some of the questions?
Chair, while he's coming up, may I just make a couple comments? Number one, I think it'd be inappropriate for us not to look at every option that comes available. When this came up, I think it's worthy of discussion. The comments we've heard today have been wonderful. I think it's going to make for some good dialogue and a good decision. There was a question made about the juvenile court building. I just thought I could make a comment on that. The new juvenile court building, of course, is starting to go vertical. It looks beautiful as the construction there. The old juvenile court building will be repurposed by the state. They already have plans for it. It will not be available. It won't be empty. That was one of the things that they guaranteed us when they came and sought our help to try and get the new juvenile court building. So that isn't a building that's available. It's not empty, and it's the state owns it, and I think would create some significant parking issues because the parking's so far away from the building. But I'm sure Ward can answer the rest of them. I just want to thank for the public process. I sat in your chairs once upon a time, and I think it's wonderful to have citizen participation, citizens come out and be involved in this. And I mean, we're just exploring an option. Because we have to say to the school yes or no, and they have to know before they go make the submit for the new market tax credits and et cetera, that will fund their school. And I think it's been very enlightening to hear some comments, some that I hadn't heard before. So I appreciated that. Go ahead, Ward.
I'll jump in real quick, too. I really appreciate, and I appreciated the comment when you were walking up to the mic and said, this is scary, because it is kind of scary to come. And this was an opportunity to have some dialogue, make sure we're exploring all of our options. It was a unique opportunity that came up, and we're by no means here to ram it down anybody's throat or do anything. We had a 46-year-old building. Here was a chance for us to, in a cost-effective way, look at some options, and that's all we're trying to do. And I really appreciate everybody taking their Tuesday evening and coming into what can be intimidating and giving your honest opinion. That's how we make good decisions that best serve our population. So I'm going to reiterate that we're very grateful for you taking your time and for you being here tonight, so thank you.
And I echo those comments as well in terms of the public process is very important and worthwhile and useful. In terms of getting at some of the questions Mr. Bryant had, why is it co-located with the school? The community center was always envisioned to be a part of the school. And that's based on the school district's desires to have a community center in that school. It's designed to be a science, technology, engineering, and math school, a magnet school. So a lot of people from the community will be bringing their children there, participating in the educational components. And so they wanted to have a community center there. They felt like that would be an asset to the community and augment what they're doing with the school. The reason that the senior center was considered was to try and address the concerns that we have about our current facility, as well as to make use of the space that was being built, and to try and capture some of the synergy and try and make use of the tax credits and the ability to raise funds so that we could get a senior center at a far lower cost than if we had just, if the city went and paid for it or bonded for it or something. So that was the consideration. And again, we're just entering on a pathway. We don't know all the answers, but we think we have enough information that we can at least make recommendations that can be weighed in the balance. Service level comparisons, my understanding is that the architects have taken that into account. And while we hear a lot of comments about the space, the overall dedicated space is smaller by 3,000 feet. But that's because the gym is anticipated to be used by the seniors at specific points in time for their programming. So when you say that certain spaces are smaller, but overall the community center has a far larger amount of space available. And so it really comes down to how the programming takes place and how those uses are put into the various spaces in the facility. And the architect's gone to great lengths to try and figure that out and to try and make spaces that could be used in multiple ways. So that hopefully answers some of the questions about the size of the facility. Granted, some of the spaces may not be identical in shape or size, and so some of the questions regarding programming, they're valid questions. If you enter on this pathway of doing this community center, certain elements of programming would have to be shifted or adjusted or changed. But then obviously other opportunities would present themselves. And so it's not an identical fit from one to the other, but hopefully there are some advantages that may be worth considering.
Ward, there was a comment saying that the seniors would have last response to the gymnasium.
Yes, and that's a good question to answer as well. The lease agreements that would be worked out with the school district would predict the times and days that the seniors would use the gym and have access to the facility. So again, it gets down to programming. They would not be last place. They would have their spaces defined and designated. It's critical to be able to do that. To answer the question of are there more seniors close to the current site, there probably are in terms of the assisted housing and the, what do you call them, the apartments and the concentration. There's opportunities for senior housing in the vicinity of the other, and some of the things we're looking at involve senior housing, new senior housing in that vicinity as well. So currently, yes, there are more seniors in the vicinity of the current center. So I hope I've answered the question so far.
Talk a little bit about the noise separation from the school.
Okay. The way the facility is designed, there really is no direct communication between the school and the community center. It's a separate. You'd have to go out of the school through vestibules into the gym to even get to the gym. So the school children can get access to the gym, but again, that has to be programmed, and it has to be on the schedule that's negotiated in the agreements. But there's no way the school children would have a way of getting into the senior center. There's no doors. There's literally no doors. So in terms of noise and various things,
So now
I'm not
talk
sure
about
how,
the noise separation from the level above.
Oh, the level above? Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's ways of architecturally making noise dampers in the, and I'm sure that's probably something they're working on. But certainly we could bring that up if it's not already in the design. I know that they know these things. The architect's obviously designing this facility to have youth above and seniors below. So that's a good question. We'll have to bring that up with them and see.
Excuse me. I also did a lot of research on that. I'm sorry, we've had our public input time. I'm sorry about that. There is time at the end of the meeting, however, that you might be able to address us on that issue. But I did have a question about the collaboration with existing facilities. The allegation is you haven't talked to them. Have you, or haven't you?
Yes, I have.
If you have, what have you learned? And
I've learned that it all comes down to the operating agreement. If they have concerns, it's because their operating agreement either was not followed or fell apart or never got developed in the first place. And in the case of, well, I'm not going to throw names out, but that's exactly what it comes down to. That the operating agreements were weak in one case and almost non-existent in the other case. So, and that's the lesson that we learned. So obviously, if we're going to make this work, we're going to have a very good operating agreement.
I don't know how you could possibly plan for all the future potential conflicts when you develop that operating agreement.
Right. And then it comes down to having in the agreement the mechanisms for a relationship that you can negotiate things and work things out. Which again is what's happened with some of these facilities.
I think there are several questions about the safety of the facility, the safety of the citizens and the students, and also the sidewalk safety, the parking, and also security. if you have an opportunity, maybe show that diagram of how the facility is actually built, would help us understand some of those issues that they have, plus the aspect of having a north entrance because of the winter aspect of it.
I'll address the north entrance first, since we can talk about that before the drawing. We have talked to the architect, and there are ways to either heat the sidewalk.
While you're looking for that, Ward, one other question or comment that was made was about the property swap for parking with the LDS Church. There has been serious discussion with that, and an initial approval at a fairly high level of the church that they're willing to make that work. So we're just working up the final details on that, and we've kind of just been helping between the church and the school district to be able to put that together. So that's a lot further down the road than we probably have represented.
Sure. And the city transfer of land has already been worked out. So this is the community center site. And the question was access on the north side would have to be worked out with something to accommodate the fact that it's in shadows, and the architects know all about that, and they have mechanisms to take care of that. Obviously, the operating agreement would require maintenance of that area, and so yes, it is obviously a concern, but it's something that they're working on. And the other, what was the other?
Safety and parking and the security of the building.
Yeah. This area is designed to be primarily the community center and not for the school. The school parking is in front of the school, and in the big ellipse, that's the main school parking area, and the front door of the school is right at where that arc is. So that's the front door of the school. And then, so up on the north side, it's a separate entrance altogether. It's not a drop-off area for students. The drop-off area is in the circular area there, and then the kindergarten drop-off is on the bottom of the drawing on the very south wing of the facility. So they've looked at that, obviously, and tried to find ways to accommodate where the pedestrians are going to be, where the cars are going to be, and where the uses are going to be. So that has been taken into account.
There won't be children running around, the seniors, while they're trying to get in. They're not going to be heading for the same doors.
No.
That's
No, the entry doors are to the school. There are no entry doors to the school in that vicinity. That's not to say that children couldn't be walking to school that way, but if you look at the sidewalks are light tan. The sidewalk would go clear to the west of the community center parking, and then come along the ellipse and then into the front door. So it's designed to keep the pedestrians away from parking, away from. There's no way to get access to a door that a child could get into. So there's really no reason for them. I mean, there's no pedestrian-oriented reason, obviously, for that. But the main walkways would be along the west of the community center parking. So they tried to accommodate that as much as they could.
So is the security where it's separated the center from the school, there's a security system there in place then?
Security system, well, it's obviously up to the facility people to monitor who's coming in, but the center's entrance would be on the north side. There's a kitchen entrance on the west, but it's designed to be away from where the normal flow of traffic would be of students.
one of the people said that they felt like that we'd kind of kept this under wraps and just kind of let it out at the last, at a short time. You might want to address that, just so that I think it's important that they realize that that's not really been the case.
Right. Yeah, we've been, again, working with the school district for a year now, and obviously there have been a number of public meetings relative to the interlocal agreement, and there have been articles in the newspaper. As it relates to relocating the senior center, that's been under discussion since the fall of 2013, so the last 6 months or so. But in terms of having a design that we could bring to someone and say, hey, here's how it might work, that's been available since early March. And so we tried to get it out as quickly as we could. And so, again, there is a short timeline for approval, but it's not with any intent to withhold information.
Probably along with that same comment, though, what concern might you have because it is such a short time? I mean, we haven't had, a long time to think this through. Is that a concern that you can address?
We're simply addressing it from the standpoint, here's an opportunity to weigh in the balance, the opportunity to stay at the current facility and try and work things out on that track, or to use this opportunity and then deal with the implications and realize that it can work, at least the way that we've seen the architect's proposals and the way that we've analyzed it ourselves. It certainly can work. It has the drawback of not being able to expand on site, the fact that we don't own the facility, but those are things that, if you're on that track, you can say, well, now what do we do? We can move forward. There still are options for the future. Here's one option. We're paying a lease of, theoretically, if we get the facility paid for and we don't have to pay a debt service on that, then we're paying a very low, in fact, lower than what we're currently paying. And we operate there for practically indefinitely. And then if we were going to, by comparison, we'd have to either fix up or replace the existing facility, and how much debt would we go into there? Even a portion of that debt could get other sites or other facilities in play. So, there are just ways of looking at the alternatives. It's not that that everything's good about either alternative. It's just now we're at a decision point. So.
My concern is this was dumped on the seniors mid-March, and instead of maybe asking them if you were to get a new senior center, what would you like to see in it? It's just, here we've tried to cram all these things into the existing space. Here you go.
Yeah.
And I just don't think.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know.
Please don't clap.
I wish we would have gone about this a little bit differently.
Yeah. Well, to answer that question, we actually did. That was the whole purpose of bringing it to the council, was to get feedback from them about the design. And the same thing with the meeting on the 17th. That's the whole reason we talked. It wasn't to say, oh, here's the plan, take it or leave it. So we were in fact asking for input, and that you see the public comments that we received. That we've given to you. So anyway, at least that's been our intent. So there are those that haven't interfaced and haven't, and it's new to them because they haven't had a chance to either participate in that earlier meeting or have their questions answered. So yeah, I agree. It's been a very short turnaround.
And Ward, I think Bob, who runs Golden Hours, has been involved in the process since we've been exploring this option. So he's been there to kind of represent the Golden Hours Center as their director.
And I don't want to speak for Bob because I wish he were here saying his piece as well. But I think there's been a lot of input that he's been able to provide.
So I guess at this point, I would actually just like to say, out of respect for the high volume of public comments that we've had, that I would move that we continue this matter to May 13th, 2014, to allow additional time to consider the public comments made tonight prior to making a final decision.
Second.
Motion to continue to May 13th by Vice Chair Cockner and seconded by Councilmember Garner. I do know your name. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, we will do that. We do appreciate the input that comes from our citizens. You have no idea how much that helps us to make decisions, particularly where you're the users. And we feel like that's representative of the comments, and we appreciate the input that we've gotten tonight. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is fiscal year 2015 proposed budget, and we get to hear from our good mayor and CAO, Mark Johnson. I should say honorable mayor.
I'm not a judge, but thank you very much. And in keeping with the philosophy that short meetings make long friends, we'll try and get right to the point on a lot of these. But I really appreciate the pleasure to be with you tonight. This is the culmination of a lot of hard work, hand-wringing, and effort from a lot of our department directors. I was thrilled to be able to dovetail with the award that Lori, Camille, and Lisa have I think deservedly received, the distinguished budget presentation. They've done a great, thorough, open, and transparent process. I think this is a great presentation. I'm very happy to be with you tonight for this. Again, I want to thank our department directors. I asked them all to come and rigorously defend their departments. When we're asking people to do more with less, it really requires everyone to bring everything to the table. And we really did have multiple full days of sitting down and pouring through every detail of these budgets. We have our challenges, but we have some bright spots we can build from, and they really identified those, and we're committed to the process. I can tell you this was my third go. When I was first elected, I was 2 weeks into the job with some other extenuating circumstances we dealt with. It was a lot different this year in terms of how comprehensive and the commitment we had from everyone, and I really appreciated that. This is one of the quotes we use in our economic development department, and I think any great person will agree to, it being the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll say, borrow a quote from Wayne Gretzky, "A good hockey player plays where the puck is. A great hockey player plays to where the puck is going to be." And we all aspire to greatness. We all want to do unique things. The governor's office has sent out their office of the census office there says that in the next 30 years, we're going to see an additional 2.9 million people along the Wasatch Front. And that's basically from Box Elder to Provo, doubling our population. A lot of what we talk about, a lot of the priorities you're going to see, think about that in mind. If we don't plan for that kind of additional density, a lot of the things that we use as really unique pieces of our quality of life here, the things that we enjoy, one of the reasons Forbes recognized us as one of the great places to raise a family, we're going to choke those things out. And so a lot of what we set as priorities and what we talk about is looking at what the next 30 years will look like. I think it's petrifying when I think the Olympics were 12 years ago. Almost half of that time, it seems like we blinked. That amount of time has gone by. If we blink again and we don't make some of these and set some of these priorities now, those people will be on us, that growth will be on us, and we won't have some of the options for good, long-term, solid planning that we have in front of us now. The preparation and philosophy, overall, this was cooperation. When I first came, I pounded the table a little bit and did the math that first 2 weeks when I talked about that, and I said, you know, I'm doing the math in this room right now, and I'm looking at police chief, fire chief, public works, all of these other municipal pieces, components that go together in making a city. We have 120 years of municipal governance experience. I've got 2 weeks. I don't pretend to come in with all the answers. You all have the answers, and collectively we can find a way to make better decisions with fewer resources. And they've really done a great job of that. So it's been out of our office. The directors and the staff have really done a deep dive with all of that. Some of the communication pieces, we met with all the employees, and our directors met with the employees in December. What we wanted to have was a direct line of communication. We want to understand what happens. I'll be honest, and sometimes I feel like I'm at the end of the row with some of the employees in terms of by the time the information gets to us, it's well down the line, and a lot of times it's become a bigger problem than it needed to be. If we got in front of them early and they felt like there was a real direct line of communication, we can get in front of a lot of those problems. Our directors have really taken ownership in their departments, and I think they've met with all of their employees and brought all of those to the budget retreat we had in the directors meeting in January. We had 2 full days where we sat down, we addressed all of those comments, all of those concerns, anything that had come up in the past year, and they were very open with that. We had a lot of, I mentioned, open discussion and debate, plenty of colorful language, and thick skin was part of that process that we required, but I think at the end of the day brought us to a better sense of where we are and what we can do. Directors then came back. We felt like we had some loose ends that needed to be nailed down after those days in January. We went back, we did another deep dive, did some more research, brought that to the table, and we came back in April for another open discussion and to make final priorities. What you have after we've met with the employees is the list of those final priorities. Once we set those in April, then every department director went and met with every employee in their divisions and gave them an opportunity to comment and have feedback and to have dialogue about where we were. So that's where we are today. Our commitment was we wanted to be united in our decisions across the departments. Everybody had to vote on what we were setting as priorities, and they had to take that back and take those priorities and champion them in their departments. So I think it's critical that we as a team of department directors are united in that, and everybody at the end of the day felt really good about the decisions we were made. One of the unique ways we were able in the past 2 years to gather some of this information is we put all of our department directors and staff into 5 unique committees. The IT committee, the fleet committee, the facilities, compensation, and revenue committees. We recognize those as really unique challenges up front, and we wanted to do a deeper dive and have constant attention given to those 5 departments. We thought there were some really unique challenges there that we needed to address, and they did a great job of that. I think when you look at what we've done with fleet and some other things, they really found some unique opportunities to come in and some unique timing in the market and everything else to address that. And again, we appreciate them being willing to meet on a monthly basis to talk about things that are typically well out of their work scope, but to be committed to making good decisions with that. Results of that process, one of the things we've heard and we have truly believed is that we're almost 6 years with very little compensation. We had compression with employees, with particularly public safety. Didn't think it was fair for somebody coming in, newly hired, to be making the same as somebody that had been there for 6 years already. So we've looked at some ways to address that. We're very proud to present a 4% potential increase in the tentative budget for all of our employees. We have close to 700. They are the ones that set the tone for our city. They're the ones that take care and provide the services to everyone that's here. It's critical that we take care of them, and we've really prioritized that. We have a plan for employee wage increases going forward. The insurance costs are always a huge deal. As you all know, this is many, many years into this. Typically, we'll get a double digit, even sometimes over 20% initial increase requests from our quote or bid from our insurance companies. That's always a huge challenge. We don't want that to trickle down and hit our employees. So we've been able to fund insurance costs without dramatic changes to the plan, fund required retirement costs increase, and stabilize the IT fund budget, which has been a big black hole for a little while. We're real confident that we've got a great way forward, and we've been able to stabilize that and give them some direction. So again, that's work that came out of those committees. Results of the budget process. CIP funding and tentative budget, Fire Station 3. The chief's working really hard to work on options for that new fire station. I believe ours is over 60 years old now. It's not functional. Some people have laughed. You couldn't repurpose it as a pet shelter. It's a shame that we have public safety people spending their time in that. We're really excited to see some improvements happen there. WACOG, we were able to get transportation funding for the Ogden Transit Study. UTA and UDOT are matching money there. I believe that's a $850,000 study total, so we've found some unique partnerships there. 20th Street, Wall to Washington, that will be $2.3 million in improvements there. Harrison Boulevard widening of $4.3 million, and we were able to secure ramp funding for Ogden City projects of $388,000 last year. Having had a lot of experience with RAMP, I'll just put a quick graph up there. RAMP is up for re-election this year. I was going to mention earlier, I have spent quite a bit of time in Golden Hours. For those that are still here through the RAMP process, I managed that for 6 years. I've been in a whole bunch of times looking at applications. I know some other people here have worked on those as well. RAMP's been an amazing thing for our community, and I think it's worth just showing what that's done in Ogden City. It's done amazing things throughout the county. Rough math on that's about $45 million when this first 10-year cycle is done in quality of life improvements that we would not have been able to find a way to do any other way. So I'll be on that soapbox as often as possible. In the next year, it's up for election in November. But RAMP's been great with us, and it's a very transparent and competitive process, and Ogden City's done well. And I think when you look at the return on investment and the people served for the dollars we've been awarded, it's a pretty unique story, and we're real proud of what's happened with RAMP. Media recognition, we had a unique year. As you see, Forbes, we were on the list of the fastest growing U.S. cities. This is the third year in a row we've been in the 20 fastest growing cities list for Forbes magazine. Being the father of 11 and 13-year-old daughters, I'm particularly proud of the second one of the top 10 places to raise a family 2 years running. I think those are great things. We understand that's a regional thing, but I think it says a lot about the region we live in, about the opportunities here and the diversity of our economy and opportunity that are here, not just in Ogden City, that goes beyond our boundaries. We are the biggest city in this regional area, though, and so a lot of that comes through here. Manpower, we've been on the top 10 list for job growth per capita for the past 3 years. National Geographic is the top 10 list for emerging ski towns. Numbers on Economic Index list, top 10 for economic vitality. Powder Magazine, it's actually a 12-page feature on Ogden City, and Steamboat, who is one of those ski town USAs, wrote a big article with a little bit of jealousy over what Ogden City's done and the way we've been able to attach ourselves to the 26 different logos that represent outdoor manufacturing companies that are in Ogden right now. That number 9 on the economic indicators list also put us ahead of Minneapolis, Boston, Salt Lake, San Francisco, Seattle, Boise, and Portland, all cities that typically come with a little more buzz and cachet. So I love to see Ogden City and our little community up against those types of national cities. Sarah Tolliver wrote a unique thing about Ogden City's support and the fact that we've been a key piece and component of the events business and what we're doing in tourism, revenue we're able to generate through that. We've appreciated being able to partner with the Gold Foundation and the CVB to go out and recruit really unique things. Some of those coming in 2013. Well, what we hosted in 2013, we had 130 different special events permits and 9 film permits. Scenic Tour Utah was a unique thing in collaboration with GOED and EDC Utah to bring in a whole bunch of Taiwanese manufacturers and C-level company representatives from Taiwan. Obviously had the Xterra Fat Bike Summit Ogden Marathon. The Cannondale Cycling Sports Group is actually coming this June. That's a week-long event. They ship 1,200 bikes into BDO that they'll have assembled. They'll have 600 dealers that come from all over the country and about 200 media people that will come spend a full week here on that. So we're really thrilled to have that. 2014, we're already 85 events year to date. So if we're 6 months in, we're on pace to put, 170 or so events in for next year, 8 film permits, 70 events not needing permits. It was, people probably saw on 25th Street, we had, I believe it was Eddie Bauer that came and did a 3-day shoot. They were very unaccommodating in Park City, and our special events staff, and Christy McBride in particular, found a way to make everything work here, and they were thrilled. So that type of reputation in a small market like that really resonates, and people bring back that business, and it was a great thing for us to have, and we appreciate the staff that totally commit to this. This is a quote by Todd Brightwell. EDC Utah and GOED saw the Scenic Tour Utah as one of the more unique out-of-the-box recruitment tools that any city's put together. We were happy to have them come in and pay about half of the cost to produce that. They've actually taken the lead from the state level now, and they'll be producing that in-house. We're going to have one of the busier summers in Ogden City's history, and we told them we don't have the bandwidth or the resources to put it that. We've got everything coming that will be really unique. So we need to have all hands on deck here for the different things that we have coming. But we thought that was a great lead out, and we appreciate our partnership with the state and EDC Utah and GOED. Business recruitment, we have had some really unique wins here. I could read through all of those. I think some of the keys on that, Esurance was new. You see 150 jobs by the end of 2014, 650 by the end of 15. That will be a big job driver for us in the BDO area. We're going to be close to almost 6,000 total jobs in the BDO area in the next year and a half. That's a huge economic engine for us. We're real happy about that. Northrop Grumman was a big win for us to bring that campus in and consolidate some of those jobs into Ogden. I think it sets a great tone for where we're going with that. You see we have some cycling jobs and some additional financial advisement jobs, which are always good. City Cycle moved from Jacksonville, Florida. It's the Cannondale dealership in the Junction. He couldn't be happier about what he's had and the opportunity to lead an active, healthy lifestyle here. He's been thrilled with that. A number of restaurants, and one of the things that we've done and will continue to do is to work hard on retaining the jobs. It's easy. You can go recruit. That's probably not the lowest hanging fruit. What we would rather do is to see companies build and grow their base here and drop their roots here. That's a much easier thing to do than to go out and recruit on the national market right now. Digital content company will have a grand opening for that in the next 2 months. We retained 110 jobs, and they're expecting to add 50 in the next little bit. Those are all high-tech jobs. When we can get those high-tech clusters to get competitive and start to poach their employees, and you've got a really unique ecosystem for them to be successful in, they tend to grow, and we're really excited about our burgeoning high-tech sector there. Another aerospace company will be adding 50 new additional jobs. HomeDepot.com, I think, is a unique, get to the right one, about halfway down. There'll be almost 950 jobs. That was a real unique effort that both the Applied Technology College and Weber State participated heavily in. They had 85 potential host cities. Ogden City was nowhere on it, but when we brought the right group of people together and competed for that piece of business, they came back to us and said that was the most unique presentation we'd had of all 85 host cities. And your community was able to be nimble and quick in some ways that we haven't seen anywhere. So I'm real proud of what they were able to do there and with the partnership we have with Weber State University on that. You can see some of the other things that we have that are really growing that we're very excited about. Mentioned Weber State. I will personally thank your executive director, Bill Cook and Amy Sood. They took the lead on a lot of the College Town Initiative stuff. I think they meet on a monthly basis with a lot of the deans and departments up there. It's been a unique new relationship. Ogden City and the university have not worked like this together in the past, so it's taken some time to figure out how that works and how we can best leverage each other's strengths. That Weber State investment in the downtown building, I think, is exceedingly unique. It's the first investment and first joint venture we've had with Weber in that way in 20 years. We have great expectations for that. It's a great example of taking an old building. When we walked through it the first time and you saw just the layers of pigeon habitation and dead birds, and it was really hard to have the kind of vision that they brought to this. I think that's a great repurposing of a real classic historic building and something we'd like to see be a lead out and an example for people to follow. It's a beautiful, beautiful building, and we're real proud of that. D-School Collaborative Project, we recognize that Ogden City and the school district are vital to each other's success. We've worked really hard with the new superintendent on ways to help stabilize neighborhoods and for ways we can really support and help what they're trying to get accomplished up there. I think that was really unique. Housing in the downtown, retail in the downtown has always been tough because when we didn't have residential in the downtown, the retail places would bring in their map, put a pin on the map, and look at what they had in terms of residential in a 1 mile radius. And we had a tough story to tell in the downtown area. I think the residential you'll see coming in the next 2 years, 754 units planned, all of those at market rate. We're not doing discounted or low-income units out of those 754. That will really help with our ability to attract retail, so we're very excited about that. You can see what we did in the past 5 years, but we really believe that will help stabilize the retail climate down here and make us more appealing for some of the other unique groceries and things that we've wanted to bring in but have not been able to quite get across the finish line just yet. So we're really excited about that. There's some great things, I think, on the tee for us in the next little bit. The next, we've talked a little bit about this. We have a real unique investment that's occurred in our community. The LDS Temple will be, the open house will be 5 weeks. It'll start August 1st and go through September 6th. Right now, their estimate, having looked at what the other open houses have done, they're guessing we'll bring 500,000 to 600,000 people into our downtown area. That's about 20,000 people per day. We've met with a lot of the other communities that have done open houses, most recently Gilbert, Arizona, and Brigham City. And Brigham City, they told us they were out of every morsel of food in Box Elder County within 5 days because they just didn't plan for this type of volume of people. We see this as a real unique opportunity to showcase close to $1.5 billion in vertical construction that's gone on in the downtown in the last 10 years that a lot of people are unaware of. We want them to come, have a really unique, walkable, enjoyable experience here. They'll see a real unique downtown core that a lot of people have not protected. This is one of the only downtown temples like this, and so I think it'll be a real special experience for people, and we really look forward to that. Jay mentioned some of the 200 projects we are looking at. We see this as I mentioned, in a number of different places. When I worked for the Salt Lake Organizing Committee, the 3 years in front of the Olympics were nothing but dust and debris and chaos and detours. But a week before the game started, every pot had a flower in it, every pellet had been picked up, every orange barrel was put away. And we want to roll out the red carpet for a really unique group of people coming in a similar fashion. Part of that will be the Grand Avenue Promenade. That will blast well past what happens with that open house when we're talking about walkable, bikeable communities that aren't hardened just for automobiles. I think that'll be a great example for people to follow and will help spur some additional development along that. Ski bus service was something we'd worked long and hard on. We had a great number last year. This is well beyond what, this was the 2012-2013 season. I'm told that this season, numbers aren't final, but they were thinking they had closer to 28,000 riders for this season. That's a great rollout for a product that we didn't have for a long time. I spent a lot of time working on that with my job at the county and with the CVB earlier. So we're really excited about what we think will happen with the potential of the ski bus service. And I mentioned the city fleet replacement. A lot of the public safety vehicles we had were all over 100,000 miles on some of those cars. We didn't think, I know how I drive. I can't, and I've seen how some of the police need to get around, and I don't think 100,000 miles on public safety vehicles is great. So we found some unique market opportunities to go in and refinance. You all appreciated that. We appreciated the collaboration and being able to work to address some of those things. 35 new police vehicles and 10 new refuse trucks. We got great trade-ins on those, and had we not had a working fleet committee that was committed to this, I don't think we would have found those opportunities. So we're real excited about that. A couple additional highlights, the bike initiative. We talked about getting a $100,000 master planning grant, so as UDOT comes in and we do street and infrastructure improvements down the road, these long-term pieces will be plugged into that. I mentioned earlier the 2.9 additional million people in the next 30 years. If we don't have some master planning documents for public transportation and active transportation and some of these other things, we're going to find that we're not able to go back and make those improvements. And so we don't want to be reactive to it. We want to be proactive to what we're doing there. We're happy about that. Envision Utah, mentioned the 30-year growth. We've got some unique relationships. The Taiwan relationship have already paid some fruit. The Cannondale Global Bike event was a direct result of us going over and being involved in that. Had 2 other companies that have moved this year so far. So we're really excited about that. And for me personally, half the cities on the Forbes fastest growing list were also on Bicycling Magazine's most friendly bike list. And it's a sense of, one of the things we've talked a little bit about, and we did at Weber State, was that you've got these great older neighborhoods with these big porches because the homes weren't built with AC. So in the morning, everybody would be in, you do your work, but in the afternoons, everybody went out onto their porches and you walked the dog and you saw people and you're out in your community and you knew your neighbors. And when we just plan for the automobile, I think that really hardens it. One of the things that we're trying to address through some of this as well is clean air. That was one of the key legislatives. They did a whole bunch of surveys with citizens in Utah and along the Wasatch Front after the legislative session, and one of the top things people wanted addressed was clean air, particularly this January. So these are all ways to do that, and we're excited to have some things on the list. We also, I failed to mention earlier, one of the unique things we're going to have is the Masters National Championship this September. That'll bring 2,500 Masters athletes in to do 6 days of competition on their bikes in it throughout the community. So that'll be a great little push for us as well. And I again want to thank Jay and Justin for everything they did with the Ogden River, that reclamation project, 6 years, 10 agencies that contributed to that. And to get the Blue Ribbon Fishery designation on that has been really unique. We mentioned earlier, part of the takeout for that 1.1 mile river was 2,500 automotive tires, 8 cars, and 15,000 pounds of trash. That was a huge amount of effort and a lead out thing that we've had a lot of people come and use us as a great example of what can be possible if you do really unique projects and you approach it in a different way. So they've done a great job with that. We really appreciate that. One of the things we're going to be talking about with those additional 2.9 million people, the water we have in and around the Wasatch Front may be the limiting factor, the overall limiting factor to our growth. So one of the things we've tried hard to do is that the water utility, making sure we take advantage of what we have. We did a really difficult project that ended last year with the water pipeline through Ogden Canyon. That was a 102-year-old water pipeline. The estimate is we are losing 3 million gallons of treated water per day through that. I appreciated Jay taking the stiff spine into the canyon and making sure that got done. We can't afford to do anything like that. We've got to really think long-term about what we do with our water and how that works. We got an excellent audit rating, safety, design, and functionality of the water system. Audit conducted every 3 years. The state of Utah and Weber County Health Department put into that, and we look to have that looked at and to find ways to continually improve that unique resource. We don't want that to limit what we're able to do. I've been told that I think Pleasant View and some other local communities along the Wasatch Front have stopped development because they're out of the water rights and they don't have a way forward with that. So that's a really unique thing that I think our guys worked really hard on. And so I am again here to thank them all and the department directors for the work that they put into this. Appreciate you giving me a chance to provide a few highlights on that and for us to now put this in your hands to do the grappling and hand-wringing that we've done for the past 5 months. So thank you, and I'll have Mark come give some of the economic outlook.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Before I start through my slides, I just want to take a moment when I see some great people that I have worked with off and on over the years at Union Station to say how much I appreciate that building. I was down there on Saturday taking a few pictures for some youth in our area for their dance, and there was a waiting line for the double blue doors, and there was a waiting line for the black train, and there was a waiting line for a lot of the other areas, and I really appreciate the building. I think Ogden struggled over the last few years as they've tried to rebirth themselves with combining the past and the future. And I think that we're working to try and figure that out, and it's been a great addition to our staff to have Mr. Buxton come. He's got a whole lot more expertise on a building like that than I do, and I think he's bringing some good synergy with Union Foundation, and I look forward to really good things in the future. So I'm really glad to see all of you here and look forward to the work session later on. I also want to just say, I'm asked often what it's like to work with Mayor Caldwell and what he's really like when, he's not in front of people, and he's exactly how he is all the time, not just when he's in front of people. He does a wonderful job. He's the perfect icon for Ogden City around the state of Utah. He's well respected. He's been invited to be on many boards that are influential. I think he represents good values for our community. He's a great family man. I had to laugh. His daughter was recently elected as our class president for next year at Mount Ogden. And I told him that he's only a mayor, she's a president, so she outranks him at home. And he assured me, living in a home with 3 women, he's always outranked. But he's been a marvelous and refreshing addition to our community as the mayor of our city. And I respect him. I am honored to work with him. And I can say the very same thing about our senior team. We have a great senior management team and great employees. Our employees are amazing. If you watched Channel 5 TV last night, you saw about some amazing employees called firefighters, tree removal, fence builders, although Jay cried when he saw the root of the tree. But we just have amazing employees who go about and do some amazing things for our citizens. And I'm grateful to be associated with them, to be one of them. I also want to give a shout out before I start through my slides to your council staff. Bill Cook and I have been friends since 2002 when I became a member of the council. And he had just recently arrived as the executive director. And I have great respect for Bill Cook, for his skills, for his ability, and that of his staff. He has compiled and put together a staff that is superb. We thoroughly enjoy working and collaborating with them, and I think great things happen as a result of the relationship we have with them, and I thank them for that. This is my 11th budget that I've stood up before you. Not all of you. I think Amy's the only one that's been here through all my 11, and I apologize. She'll know that I always start with a quote or two. And I always want to see how accurate was my favorite economist. And Mark Zandi is my favorite economist because I think he's the most accurate. And a year ago, he said, basically, that's going to be a tricky year. And the growth will soften a little, and basically, if we don't have a government shutdown and other things, that the recovery will remain intact and even gain traction at the end of the year. Well, it didn't really gain traction at the end of the year, and the reason was we had a government shutdown, which really took a while to recover. So I liked his quote. It's so much I went and got, well, our staff got for me. Uh-oh. I must hit the wrong button. You have to get these so that they're Mayor and Mark proof. Here was his predictions for this coming year, that we'll have a stronger U.S. economy. I think that that'll be true. I think he thought there will be accelerating job growth. If you saw the job numbers last week, we have accelerated job growth. Profit margins are going to be strong. I think most companies have cash, and they right now don't know what to do with it. And I think that that's a good position to be in when you're trying to bring businesses to our community. I think confidence is still the missing ingredient amongst our citizens. I think they don't really know what to expect. I think they're looking for just that feel that the economy is for sure back and coming. We have to still go through a lot of adjustment. The government has to unwind the stimulus package that they put together. They have to begin to raise rates a little bit, and as they go through that the market's going to be troubled for a little while, and rates are going to be unstable. We think that the current rates that are in place will probably be in place for at least another year, and who knows how long. We have a new Fed chair, and how she will choose to unwind some of these packages that are currently there, we don't really know the answer to that. So we kind of feel that we're in about the same place as we were last year. I don't know that I feel any more confident than I did last year, but I don't know that I feel worse than I did last year. I think we're about where we were a year ago. We still continue to have some revenue challenges. We still continue to work on growing our tax base. And, you know, we come to a conclusion every year. If our tax base doesn't grow, then we either have to live with what we spent the year before, or we have to cut something out so that we can spend something different. And most of the major cities in the Wasatch Front, which we meet with, are experiencing this same phenomena of tax base has really slowed down in a major way. And they're having a hard time funding the services the government has traditionally been responsible for. And I am concerned that that's going to continue long into the future. We have a build-out community. Younger cities don't have that problem, so it's easier for them to attract businesses to come because they can say, well, that field over there, we can get you a good deal on that field and you can go build. And we've got to figure out how to retrofit an older building, or we've got to figure out how to get rid of something so we can put them there. And it's always a challenge. But one of the things Ogden City has to focus on is decide on how much density are we going to allow, where are we going to allow it. To continue to grow our tax base, I think density has to become an issue that we focus on, and we put it in the right places, and we use it as a mechanism to build our city. I think the density we're building in the downtown is great, and it's a slow process, but I think it's improved our crime numbers in the downtown. It's improved a lot of things by having people live down here. And I think it brings a security that comes. It'll also increase and help our tax base. We're still struggling with some of the lower income places. We have some housing that's substandard. We have quite a bit of housing that's substandard. And so that still makes some challenges for redevelopment. It still makes challenges for our schools. And so that's a continuing challenge we have revenue-wise. We have a reduction of what the federal government's willing to do, and probably rightfully so, but it's an adjustment still. We've had grants to fund some of our police officers and our firefighters, and we have grants that fund other type things. And those are starting to just dry up and probably will continue over the next few years. We've been trying to plan for those events to keep coming and try and make sure that we aren't dependent on it. The state of Utah probably is much more dependent on the federal government than Ogden City is. And I think we just have to be conscious of when we accept help from the federal government, whether it'll be available. Some of the other revenue challenges, Ogden City has raised its property tax one time, and it was for the GEO bond to renovate this building and to to build the Public Works building, I believe. So that was quite a few years ago. But other than that, Ogden City has not raised its property tax since the early 80s. We're probably one of the few cities that's gone that long without raising their property tax. But because of some of our valuations of property, our tax rate, our property tax rate, is one of the higher ones. And so when it gets reported in the press, sometimes it's a misnomer, because people look at it and go, oh my gosh, the taxes are nuts in Ogden. Well, they're not really. It's just our valuations are a little lower, which makes it look a little bit out of whack. We aren't the only taxing entity that is responsible for property tax. And so our property tax rate is influenced by the county, it's influenced by the schools, it's influenced by the mosquito abatement, then there's 100 other, not 100, but there's several others that influence that tax rate. So we're very careful to not want to do that, but as we try and have revenue challenges, we continue to look at that and say, someday we may have to really take a look at an adjustment of our property tax. It's also a concern for us that our Ogden City citizens, some of them are overburdened right now with the property taxes. And so giving them more may be even a bigger challenge for them to be able to handle. I already hit. Oh, I didn't hit that. The last part of that is the B&C road funds. Now, B&C road funds come off of the gas tax. The gas tax is figured off of miles or per gallons, not dollars. So when gas goes up, people quit using it so much, and when they quit using it so much, we get less money to fix our roads. It is an odd system. The gas tax has not been adjusted in the state of Utah for 18 years now. It really needs to we need to take a look at it. We don't have enough money to fix the roads that we are responsible for. And so this is an area that we are concerned with. We continue to try and see if we can't convince the legislature to do something about it. It is a hotly contested issue and has been for the last couple of years down at the legislature, but continues to be an issue. Jay was a lot younger man before he took over this area of the city. Expenditure challenges, we have several. And I want to say that it is expensive to fund city services. And a lot of times we have people come to us and think we have really deep pockets and then we've got money squirreled away somewhere. And I always feel bad because there are so many places every dollar can go, and it is such a debate. When the mayor said that we had our retreat and we argued, and there, it was almost 2 out of 3 falls a couple of times, just because there are so many good things that the dollar can go for, and there just isn't enough dollars to go enough of those places. And I know there's people who think we should be doing to this cause or this part of the city, or we need to spend it here, and we just don't have enough to go. I have yet to meet a city manager or a mayor who claims that they have enough, because it is hard to be able to adequately provide all the services you have. To complicate that, and it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but to complicate that, Ogden is a daytime center. And so our daytime population increases dramatically during the day. We like that. But those people who come here who from outside Ogden aren't paying taxes. A lot of times they couldn't spend enough money in sales tax money to make up for the infrastructure that we have to provide for them to be here during the day. So sometimes it's a complicated thing to be able to fund and to support everything that comes. Our police force is probably bigger because of the daytime population that increases. Our fire department's a little bigger because we have that, and we like being that. We like being the county seat, and we like that sort of thing, but it costs some money to be able to do that. Some of our other challenges, we want to provide our employees consistent raises. You've heard that from them. We've heard that from them. We agree they deserve it, and we're trying to figure out a way to make sure that that's the number one thing that goes in the budget. The only thing that would prohibit that, if there was no money and we had to lay someone off, we wouldn't do that to give raises. But other than that, we want to make sure that we're giving raises consistently on a yearly basis. We've made that commitment to the employees when we met with them during the meeting, or when the directors met with them in the meetings. Rising medical insurance is a tough thing. I applaud, I was meeting with Select Health several months ago, and they told me that they're trying to change the dynamics of medical insurance. They're trying to get to the point where doctors get paid differently, so that, if my kid's got his 4th ear infection and I know what it looks like, and I know he's got an ear infection, I can call a doctor and be probably FaceTime with the doctor and be able to figure out that little Johnny doesn't need to come in and see him. He's got an ear infection. Let's give him some antibiotics and take care of him. And instead of paying a $182 doctor bill, it's probably just a pharmacy cost, and maybe, the doctor's compensated some other way. Medical insurance has got to go that direction. Businesses cannot continue to afford the increases that are coming. Retirement costs is another issue. We just throw up our hands on this one. We don't have any control over these, and yet they have been, the increases have been staggering in the last 10 years. And that's a frustration to a lot of cities, more than maybe even some of us. We've been in some meetings where some of them want to revolt from the union. I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think the legislature will ever allow that. But it's become that frustrating when you have, like in the police department, we pay 48% of their wage for, we pay to URS for retirement. That is insane. That is an insane amount of money to pay for retirement. They're worth it. They're worth every penny of it. But it's just outrageous how that's gone. We've been a little concerned lately with some of the events in the news and some of the events we've had in our own buildings for employee safety. We're actually looking at maybe changing some of our philosophy to protect some of our employees. We've had some people who are out of control, who've come into the buildings and have been threatening in the way that they have treated our employees. It is something that we're taking a hard look at, and we're trying to find ways to address that to make sure our employees are safe. When they come to work, we want them to be able to go home and be safe. We've cut out a lot of our employee training that's come, and you think about it, in many areas, training is essential for us to remain sharp, to know the new things that are going on. Training's been cut. It's a challenge for us. We're trying to put some of that back because we think that's an important part of making sure that we can function in our jobs correctly. Computer equipment, computers change so fast, it's hard to keep up with that. We have fleet maintenance and replacement costs. You've listened to our agony over that. Fuel costs, facility costs, which we're trying to start to address, and I think that'll be talked about in your work session. And you can see there's a lot of others. We have a lot of expenditure challenges. We can't get to them all, and we feel bad that we can't, and we feel bad that those who come and need our help in other areas of the city, and we can't help them. But we're trying to make the dollar go as far as we can. The budget comparison for what we're proposing to you for 2015 as opposed to what was approved in 2014, there's a slight increase in the general fund of 1.87. There is an increase overall, so the Ogden City Corp total actually is a combination of the enterprise groups. Well, it's basically everything at the city except for the RDA and the building authority. As you can see, that's increasing, and a couple of the reasons for that is the medical service fund with the transfer we're trying to make for the potential of building of the new Station 3, which I think is a great achievement. We're delighted to see that. I think it's raised the spirits of the fire department in a major way. And also with the new Section 108 loan, it's increased that number by $2.6 million. So we haven't really increased the budget by as much as it looks. There's some real reasons for it. As you can see, the RDA budget decreased by 16.83%. There's a reason for that. Those of you who've been on the council very long will remember when Mr. Arrington was the finance director, you used to have to put a fudge factor in on RDA so that you could collect every penny that was collected by the district. And John would come and explain that every year, and it was the only way to make sure you maxed out what the district could earn. There's been a change in the law that doesn't require that anymore, which is delightful. And so the reduction of that $3.7 million was just the fudge factor that we're now able to take out, and the $18 million is actually real numbers. So hopefully that explains that clear as mud. If you don't understand that, grab me after, and I'd be happy to not clear it up at all for you. As the mayor said, the merit increase to employees is up about 3%, which is about a total cost of about $1.1 million, a little over $1.1 million. The payroll adjustment to the employees of 1%, which is similar to what most people call a COLA, is $402,000. And then we still benchmark all the positions. We only had one position that fell below the new benchmarking. And the health insurance plan increased 3.7%. That's really a great rate, considering 2% of it was Obamacare. So our real rate, had we not had Obamacare, would have been about 1.7, which was about $135,000 cost to the city. And then the retirement went up from last year, and we'll show that slide in a minute, of $387,000 new increase to the city. This budget proposes an elimination of a fiscal operations manager and consolidating two divisions. As the mayor said, we've got ramp funding that's in there, and it also includes the replacement of Station 3. This is the list of the CIP projects that is that's proposed in the budget. I think all but 2 of the council's priorities are in there. There were 2 that aren't, but we feel pretty good about that list, and there's some great projects on there that I think will really benefit the city. And I know there'll be a work session to talk about those in more detail. I always like to remind you of where our general fund resources come. As you can see, the number one revenue source we have is sales tax. 28% of our total general fund revenue comes from sales tax. 17% comes from property tax, and 15% comes from franchise tax. So those big 3 really are responsible for the majority of our revenue. Property tax and franchise tax are a little more stable than sales tax is. As you can see, our sales tax is up in a good spot right now. We hit a dive. We started to dive about 2008, 2009 when the recession hit, and we took a big dive, and now we're starting to come back. The blue line represents the budgeted item, and we're not going to quite hit our budget this year. We're going to be a little bit short. However, sales tax will increase this year about approximately 3%, depending on the next few months. That's pretty good growth still, but we had anticipated the growth would be a little stronger, and so we'll be a little shy of budget, but we still have good growth in sales tax. We're hoping that will continue, and we're hoping for a really good month in August when we have hopefully 500,000 people who will come and spend a lot of money when they come to see us. Although I don't know that the church would appreciate that advertisement. Property tax is pretty steady. As you can see, it continues to grow a little bit. Once again, that's 21% of the general revenue. Property tax, this kind of gives a dividing of who's involved there. You can see Ogden City is responsible for 19.51% of property tax. Weber County is about 22%, and the school district is almost 50%. So that kind of gives you the breakdown of where property taxes go. We're predicting in this budget that property tax will increase about 5%. Sales tax will increase about 3.5%. Franchise tax will increase about 5%. Telecom, which used to be a really hot tax, in fact, is the state legislature toned it down because they thought it was too hot. We're either not getting all the tax we deserve, or telecom prices are going down to the point that it just keeps decreasing. So every year in the last several years, we've been decreasing that figure. Licenses and permits, we think will go up. A lot of that's just business license by the number of activities that are going on in the city. And the court fines and forfeitures has been going down. And I think that we've written a few less citations, and I think that people's ability to pay has gone down a little bit. And I think that has just kind of slowly gone down a little over the last couple of years, which could be good news for some of you who may drive too fast. General fund expenditures, you can kind of see where the makeup is. You can see public safety has a fair amount of the general fund, 13% in fire, 34.36% in police. But you can see the makeup. The two leanest groups are the city council and the mayor's budget. I don't think we can get a hamburger between us, but the other departments have quite a few. This is just a graph to show the changes in salary over the last 6 years. As you can see, what we're proposing this year is a substantial increase over what we've done in the last few years. The wage and the adjustment is in one column. A couple of years before, we've given a bonus. This year, we're not. The benchmarking numbers, the health insurance, retirement, and total. As you can see, the total compensation is the percent that we're quoting on the side. So this has been a good year. This is probably our best year that we've been able to do for the employees in at least 6 years, and probably the third best in the last 10 years. So we feel very good that we're on the right path with the employees. I think I've already talked about health insurance. And by the way, last year we had 4.17% in health insurance costs, but we actually made a lot of adjustments to the plan to get there. This year, our 3.7 was with no adjustments. So that's a pure number, as opposed to, I think the 4% was, we got there by decreasing the benefit. And of course, you can see there's a substantial increase to URS. So we present now the budget to you. We'll be there to assist whatever we can. It's a fun opportunity to sit as a council member and go through the budget. Your staff is great. They will meet with us on many occasions before we even get to the work sessions. We've given them all the data that we could possibly give them. The budget will be available online tomorrow morning. I understand at 9 o'clock, so will the line item budget. The mayor's presentation that you saw tonight will be online. And I think that Amy Sue is emailing you the budget right now. So you will, we used to give you a book, and it used to be all ceremonial, and now it's electronic, and it's not all that ceremonial. But we thank you for your hard work. It's hard when you are part-time council members to be able to come in and take on this $180 million budget and understand all the nuances. You've got a great staff that help you through that, and it will help you with that. But we appreciate your effort, your consideration. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
With that, I'll go ahead and make the proposal that we accept the fiscal year 2015 proposed budget and set the public hearing for June 3rd, 2014.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Vice Chair Gochner, seconded by Councilmember Blair, to set the public hearing for June 3rd, 2014. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is, how are we doing, by the way? We're willing to plow further?
Keep going.
Okay. The next item is Ogden Metro SWAT interlocal agreement.
Chief Ashman will take on that, and he brought his own bodyguard.
Welcome, Chief.
One of our bigger bodyguards. John does a great job, and I sure appreciate the fact, John, that you just spend the time over here with our council and keeping them safe. I always feel intimidated when I have to follow the mayor and the CAO. I feel just a little bit insignificant, but I have to tell you that I absolutely appreciate the opportunity to work in this environment with our staff and the other directors under our mayor and CAO's leadership. It's absolutely a collaborative environment, and what I'm going to talk a little bit about here with this SWAT interlocal agreement kind of follows that same concept. Mark made reference to a decrease in opportunities in federal funding. And one of the things that we saw after 9/11 was the federal government kind of opened up their purse and funded a lot of opportunities for equipment and training in the name of Homeland Security. And we just don't see those opportunities now. And, excuse me, in 2008, the sheriff's office at that time decided that they wanted to start their own SWAT team. And so between 2008 and 2012, we were operating in an environment where we had 2 different SWAT teams in the Weber-Morgan County area. One of the things that I realized when I first stepped into this position was that it just didn't make sense in my mind to continue to have 2 different teams that we have to equip and that we have to train and that we have to coordinate communication and training in order for them to work together when we have incidents that require that many bodies in a SWAT call-out. And so this interlocal agreement that you have in your packet is the result of just under 2 years of collaboration and a lot of meetings with the Sheriff's Office, Ogden City Police Department, and the other police agencies in the Weber and Morgan County area. I believe this is the right thing to do for a couple of reasons. First of all, as I stated earlier, we just don't have the opportunity to utilize federal dollars to equip and train this team. And we have to consolidate our resources and become leaner and take advantage of opportunities where we can operate in a consolidated environment. And I think that's exactly what this does. But in addition to that, the way this interlocal agreement is written, the employees, while acting on a call-out with this team, would be considered county employees. With that comes a general liability insurance policy that would cover the team for up to, I believe it's $1 million. That just gives us a little bit of an insurance or a buffer between it starts to get into the pocketbooks of the different agencies that support this team with manpower. And so for those reasons, I would ask you to consider approving this interlocal agreement. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have. I know you've been here for a long time, and I don't want to go too long, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have about it.
Any questions for the chief?
What is our responsibility, manpower, to this agreement?
We currently have 16 officers assigned to this team. The county sheriff's office has approximately the same. Roy City, I believe, has 4 officers, and then North Ogden, Riverdale, and 2 or 3 of the others have 1 or 2.
And they have other assignments throughout the department also?
All of these officers are assigned to, this is an ancillary assignment. They're all assigned to different assignments, whether it be patrol or detectives or traffic.
But they can't go out on calls unless they're assigned to this team and recognized as a member of the team with training.
Yes, that's correct. And once they're called out and they're involved in a SWAT activation, then they become subordinate to the SWAT team commander, regardless of the rank.
Under the responsibility of the insurance that comes from their position with the county when they're called out, I guess is what.
Yes, and that's something that we haven't had in the past for the SWAT team. We've had it in place for our drug task force, but I think this makes sense.
Any other questions for the chief?
With no other questions, then I'll make a proposal that we adopt Resolution 2014-13.
Second it.
Okay, we've got a motion to adopt proposed resolution 2014-13 from Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember Stevens. And this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gochner.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
Aye. That passes. It's unanimous. Good luck with it.
Thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you, Chief. Next item is reports from the Planning Commission, street vacation, the west side of Madison Avenue from 21st to 22nd Street. Mr. Montgomery.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the chief talked about that step of insignificance. I'm one step below that after the chief has talked. So let me just share with you what is being referred to from the Planning Commission. Part of the agreement you had with the school district in the location of the new D school was Madison Avenue and its closure. As we look at this, the feeling, is that going to go down? Yeah. The feeling of the administration was to have as small an impact on our infrastructure as possible. As we saw the layout of the school and we worked in the negotiation of its alignment and movement, it was apparent that while we'd want to keep Madison Avenue in city ownership, there was a small section from behind the curb line west, about approximately 21 feet, that was actually going to be part of the school building. And it's important for a building to have one property owner. And so the recommendations before you tonight is to vacate that western 21 feet of Madison Avenue, which is a 99-foot right-of-way, so that a portion of the school building itself would be located on that piece of property that would be in school district ownership rather than the city's. So that's what your consideration is tonight. The Planning Commission, in their recommendation to you, though, there's a couple of caveats. One is the school district needs to own all the property on that west side before a vacation could occur. There's still one property they're in negotiation with. And two, the project actually has to take place. If those two things aren't in place, then there's no reason to vacate a portion of Madison Avenue. But that's what is before you tonight, to set a date to hear this item. But this is what the Planning Commission will be recommending to you when you consider this item. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Montgomery? Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2014-19 and set the public hearing for May 20th, 2014.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Cockner, seconded by Councilmember White, to set the public hearing for May 20th on proposed ordinance 2014-19. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next item on our agenda is public hearings, fiscal year 2015 annual action plan that we will hear from
Mr. Ogden.
Mr. Ogden. It's the Mr. Ogden show today.
Yeah, I have a couple events today. The item before you is to adopt the annual action plan, 2015 annual action plan. Every year, the city receives an entitlement of funds from the federal government. The Community Development Block Grant and the Home Grant come to the city, and as a part of the application, we're required to do a 5-year strategy, and then each year, within that 5-year context, we do an action plan. We're now adopting the final year of that 5-year strategy. So we're carrying out the strategies and using the funds that are available to us. As you know, over the past few years, the funds have decreased in their amounts. So you'll see the budget dollars have dropped just a little bit, but the programming is still in place. As I've said, the 5th and final year of the action plan. I'll just go through quickly the specific objectives that are met in the action plan. The housing objectives are, the home-funded objectives are the Own in Ogden program, that 45 down payment loans, the amount of $250,000. Community Development Housing Organization project, which is currently the Lincoln, the cottages on Lincoln at 27th Street. That's the project that they're doing, and we're helping fund that project. Community Development Block Grant Home and Home Match funded is the East Central Revitalization Program, and primarily the activity funded through those funds is the ACA, the Asset Control Area, where we purchase HUD homes and fix them up and resell them. Housing and community development objectives that are funded through specifically the block grant program. Emergency home repair with the goal of 8 homes, infill housing with the goal of 4 new homes, code enforcement, 200 housing units, demolition loans, 1 every other year, public improvement projects, 1 every other year, and the rental rehab program with 4 units anticipated every other year. And these are, again, strategies that carry over from our 5-year consolidated plan. The economic development objectives are funded with the block grant, the small business loan program, with the goal of creating 8 full-time equivalent jobs. This year, the loan loss guarantee program does not show any funds in it right now, but those are small loans, and those funds would be drawn from the small business loan program if and when those come about. The business information centers and annual operating subsidy. Central Business District revitalization program, expected 1 project every other year, and the budget there is $200,000. And then the big item there is the track line project. This is the $3.3 million is the Section 108 loan that is currently, the application is currently underway. And then we've added the $550,000 as carryover. That was approved in the current budget year, but is not anticipated to be spent until just after July. So we're introducing that as a carryover. The action plan budget. This is the total block grant. The entitlement is $955,000, and again, that's something that is derived by formula and given to Ogden City because we qualify. There's an amount of $1.6 million being carried over. Again, these are funds that are in the budget that have been programmed for projects, and we're carrying those over. The Section 108 loan, again, needs to be budgeted. And then our estimate of program income from loan proceeds is $374,000. The home entitlement is $362,000, and a small amount of carryover being brought in. The Chodo project is a separate set aside of home funds that is dedicated for our Chodo project on 27th and Lincoln. And then we have an estimated $92,000 in program income. Other projects, the home exterior loan program, again, these are not funded through the federal funds, but we put them in the budget because they represent kind of correspond with and are operated through the community development. Home exterior loan program, increasing the budget by $200,000 to keep that program going. And that's through the home match funds that were not expended in the previous year. And this, again, is the item that we talked about in terms of keeping that program going. And again, that's the citywide program where people can apply for home improvement loans. The Section 108 loan to be used in the track line project. Comments that were received during the 30-day comment period. Again, we're in a public process, and this hearing is the kind of wraps that process up. Some of the comments that came through were wanting to focus on homeless prevention. That, of course, is something that we support, the continuum of care applications through the federal funding, but we don't fund homeless services out of our block grant. That's not something that's been traditionally done in Ogden, but we do support the continuum of care applications. Comment about repainting the crosswalk in 26th and Madison when it was repaved, so pass that on to the Public Works people, and looking at expanding Owen Ogden into other areas of Ogden. So that's something that is not subject to our action plan. That can be done outside and independent of the action plan. So that's something that we'll obviously be bringing forth as we get into our new 5-year strategy and talking about targeting at that point. Just wanted to show that when you look at the budget, you'll find this, it's a good summary, and I'm not going to go through this because we've kind of hit the high points of that already. I just wanted to put this in here when the public's looking at, and the council are looking, this is kind of a snapshot of the entire budget that's proposed for the community and economic development through the federal funds. And it shows the sources and uses of funds. And it's found in the, on the website. We have a website for our HUD-CON plan, and that's the address. We just let people know about this, and it's in the publications and the information that goes out to the public. So the next steps are submitting the plan to HUD. We anticipate doing that this week, and to meet our deadline. And then the funds will be available for expenditure in July. We submit we do an annual performance evaluation that's presented to the council in September and sent to HUD. Then at some point during the early part of the year, we hope to do an amendment where we reconcile the carryover and the actual program income. And then the big news is that we're now up for our consolidated plan, so we'll be undergoing that process starting in the fall. And it takes most of the year to go through that consolidated plan process. So there are a number of very important decisions to be made, particularly considering that our funding has, from the federal government, has significantly decreased over the past 5 years. And so we're looking at, new strategies for developing housing and community development and economic development through the use of our federal funds, but also using significant leveraging efforts. So that's the extent of my presentation, and it's a public hearing, so any questions at this point?
Any questions for Mr. Ogden? Thank you.
Okay.
This is a public hearing, so if you have any comments about the annual action plan, if you come forward.
Seeing no movement, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to close public hearing. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's have a resolution.
And if there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2014-10.
Second.
I have a motion from Vice Chair Gochner, seconded by Councilmember Garner, to adopt the annual action plan. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gochner?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That passes. This is now time for public comment. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. Please state your name and address clearly for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, Travis Pate. As I spoke with you before, I just celebrate the things that are going on in the city, and I wish to some end, literally, the school board could be right here hearing these same comments, because I think, if anything, to some end, we're under-planning the D school, because once the river project's on board and that parcel alignment's there, I wish somehow we could just say, hey, let's have a joint work session, school board, council, sit down, air the complaints, planning commission, landmarks, and say, let's just put all the cards on the table. Let's put our property, which we bought for $34,000 plus demolition costs, that's currently retail valued at over $80,000. Let's say, here's what we have. Let's thank the school district. Every time an RDA came up, yes, there were some fine tuning that came aboard, but they've bankrolled us for how long out of their budgets? And so those are the things to me that just need to be celebrated in partnerships. If any of you had the opportunity to be at the community soccer center up at the Marquardt Fieldhouse, holy cow. And that'll be on the district property. I addressed them several weeks ago and said, this is the partnership. This is what I want to see for this new school. Sit down, everybody put your cards on the table, everybody celebrate Ogden. So when I brought up the fine-tuning aspects, it's because of the current plan. 60 Minutes aired a thing about the make-off of the New Yorker cartoons, and it says back to the drawing board. I think that's some of those things that we need to do. I brought up Lehman Suro, who was an architect of the city bank building in New York, the New York Bank. The architects offered the group, the banking company, $250,000 to use bolts instead of welds. It ended up that a hurricane force wind hit at the right angle, could not topple the building. Lehman Suro, the architect, went back to his insurance company and said, hey, here's what we're facing. Insurance company said, okay, we'll do this, and it was a $4 million fix for what was originally a $250,000 savings. So back to the drawing board to me means let's not shoehorn, and that's actually a direct quote from the superintendent to the Weber County Heritage Foundation. We don't want to shoehorn this building in there. If the community center and all these other aspects that we're trying to cram into there prohibit growth and an actual classroom academic expansion of that space, we've shot ourselves in the foot for the downtown. Mountain View School is no longer available. The OPA's moved into there. The charter school has taken the property. So the growth and the potential for expansion is here, and I think, like I said, it's a matter of just literally gritting our teeth, saying, hey, it's not worth the $250,000 savings when it's going to cost us $4 million in the long run. Lehman Suro, his insurance rates, you'd think they'd went up for the mistake? No, they went down because of his integrity, and I just challenge us for that same thing. Let's just have an honest, open book discussion with the school district and say, here's what we see, here's what needs to happen, and we need to possibly go back to the drawing board to make sure we can adequately address the growth that we're going to face. Thank you.
Travis.
Since we have been discussing, you haven't gotten input for about the new D school.
I'm sorry, could you give us your name again, just for the record?
I'm sorry.
We know you are, but.
Oh, no, but, okay, Virginia Hernandez Reza. I just want to make a comment, and I want to say that I'm very happy we are, the ones I interact in with Ogden City, with our superintendent, Brad Smith. We have been working with him and the school board behind the scenes and bringing our concerns, and especially with the D school. When he first got in as the superintendent, he was new and he had struggled. And there was a time during the time he was in that it was very hard for him. The community, the old-time community, administration, and some of the teachers, I've always been involved with Ogden City Schools. So when he came in, we met with him. He's a very understanding man. He listens to all people. He looks at what this gentleman was saying. He's very easy to work with, but he also is very determined with the new education, Weber State University. He wants to get Ogden City Schools from K to 12, get that education so they can go to Weber State University. We have been behind him, supporting him. We'll continue that. Now with the D school, I will be there, and my people, volunteers, will be volunteering at the D school. But I just want to give him kudos. He's a good man. And maybe some can't get along with him. He's not always perfect, but he's a good man. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Comments from the mayor?
Nothing to add at this time. Thank you very much.
And other council members?
The other night, we went down to the Union Station and had a delightful evening with the big boy festivities there, and I appreciate the invitation, and And I think Union Station is a very viable aspect of, or asset of Ogden City, so.
Thank you. Okay. Next item is consideration of a closed executive session.
Mr. Chair, a closed session is permissible for the purposes set forth in the agenda.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
With that, I will go ahead and make a motion that we adjourn into a closed executive session.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Wicks to move into a closed executive session. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gochner?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
That passes. We will adjourn from the other room after the closed executive session. But as a reminder, the City Council work session will be held immediately following the City Council meeting. And the purpose of the work sessions are included on your agenda, and you can visit that there.